bringing home a paycheck, paying for the kids to be the first in their family to go to college, having a job that provides health care for their loved ones. We're a state that works hard to earn the dollars that we make. We like showing up to work every day.
But he said in response to those who want to expedite a return to normalcy that he doesn't have any reopening date in mind and that any changes will be incremental. The Southern Nevada Health District reported 66 new cases of COVID-19 in Clark County Thursday, a slight slowing of the rate of infections. That brings the total number of cases in the county to 2,625, of which 53% have recovered. The death toll in the county now stands at 121. President Trump is hailing new federal guidelines for eventually returning normalcy to America.
The president says we're starting our life again.
We're starting rejuvenation of our economy again.
While he's focused on that, Dr. Anthony Fauci says his fellow health professionals have another focus.
The dominating drive of this was to make sure that this is done in the safest way possible.
Saying the phased approach is the right one, ensuring Americans can get out again while taking careful steps to avoid a further virus spread. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Federal figures show 60,000 more Nevadans filed for unemployment benefits last week. The new unemployment claims mean more than 300,000 out-of-work people have sought benefits since casinos and businesses closed in mid-March amid the spread of the coronavirus. The Nevada jobless rate jumped to 6.3% in March. That's up from the all-time low of 3.6% in January and February. It's a pretty heady honor for the nation's top expert on infectious diseases.
From a bobblehead to a foamy head, that is where the road to stardom has taken Dr. Anthony Fauci. After seeing his likeness plastered on things like socks, pastry, and other items, Fauci now has a beer named in his honor. It is produced by Wild Heaven Beer in Atlanta. It's called Fauci Spring. It's described as a pale ale with acai berries and an experimental variety of hops. Meanwhile, fellow medical pro Dr. Deborah Birx is finding that fame in a time of crisis can be, well, infectious. She is also having a bobblehead done in her likeness. I'm Oscar Wells Gabriel.
With a check on our weather, here's News 3's Dana Wagner.
A high of 77 degrees. We'll have some clouds out there today. Possibility of a mountain shower. Don't expect much rain down here in the valley. Should be a nice weekend to be outside. Enjoy.
Partly cloudy, 66 in Las Vegas. I'm John Shapiro on the new 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDON, Las Vegas' only FM news talk station. With a look at the roads, here's John Michaels.
From the Lennon Road Traffic Studio.
This report sponsored by Lowe's. Watch for possible slowing for a crash reported Rancho Bonanza. Police and fire with the scene, possible injuries, and there may be some lane restrictions as well. No slowing to reports on I-15 north and southbound. A nice recovery from this morning's rush hour. Remember that if you normally take public transit into downtown, Downtown Express, West Cliff, and Centennial Express are all paused. Other transits are running, but they are running on a Sunday schedule. Lowe's is open and here to help you through this very important time with what you need to keep your home running smoothly. Shop Lowe's.com or download their app and have it delivered to your doorstep. I'm John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
It's open enrollment season, and Medishare is the Christian healthcare sharing ministry that saves most families about $500 a month. Google Medishare and see if it's a fit for you. Medishare, healthcare you can believe in.
I'm Jim Snyder.
And I'm Marie Mortera. We want to thank you for making News 3 your number one choice for news.
Every weeknight at 11, you can count on us to have the big story of the day.
Plus breaking news that matters to you.
Jim Snyder and Marie Mortera. News 3 live at 11.
Now more than ever, we need companies that have our back. Homey just launched in Las Vegas and is already saving us thousands in real estate fees, and now they're helping our community in partnership with United Way of Southern Nevada. For each home bought or sold with Homey, they are donating $500 to the United Way to provide rent and mortgage assistance. And if you have to sell your home because of COVID-19, Homey will rebate their $2,500 listing fee back to you. Text JD to 88588 to buy or sell with Homey. Homey really does have our back.
These are unprecedented times, which are causing a lot of stress and financial worry for millions of Americans. But here's some good news. If you owe back taxes to the IRS, Optima Tax Relief can reduce the stress in your life by helping you resolve your tax debt right from the safety of your own home. Make no mistake, you don't want to owe the IRS right now. They can take your paycheck and everything you work so hard for. But with Optima on your side, you may qualify for help that saves you thousands. Their tax professionals specialize in the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks the IRS has ever offered. Optima is is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau and has resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for taxpayers across the nation. So now's the time. For tax help you need, for tax help you trust, call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-709-6011. That's 800-709-6011. 800-709-6011.
Optima Tax Relief. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
I'm attorney Paul Powell. A lot of lawyers promise a lot of things. No fee unless we win. The consults are free. Of course they offer that stuff. All lawyers do that. But will they promise not to take more money than you at the end of your case? No. When you call me, that answer's yes. I'll never take more money than you, and I put it in writing.
Call 728-5500 or go to paulpowell.com.
I really can help.
Paul Powell.
More lawyer, less fee.
Some restrictions apply.
The opinions of the hosts on KDWN are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or Beasley Media Group.
Hello, everyone. This is President Trump, the greatest president in the history of presidents. And the only show I listen to is the top-rated show, Sharp and Shapiro. They are the best.
Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, good morning, Las Vegas. We made it to a coronavirus Friday. Welcome to the show. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro, broadcasting live from the Brian Shapiro Studios, also known as my kitchen table. But yeah, we're back at you. We're live, trying to give you the most relevant information that we can. And of course, we want to hear from you. This show is about you. We know a lot of people are struggling out there, regardless of our political differences, regardless of our difference of opinions. Regardless of your situation, there are people that are struggling out there. I don't think anybody is happy about what we've been having to go through over the course of the last 4 to 6 weeks. It's a brutal situation. Yesterday, we tried to have a little bit of fun because it was my 40th birthday, and, we had Oscar Goodman on singing me happy birthday, comedian George Wallace, and it was more of a lighthearted show, trying to make people laugh in these very difficult times. But, the coronavirus situation, this is going on. It sucks, It sucks because it would have been, a great celebration with friends and family and that sort of thing. I had a big party set up, and instead, we're all in quarantine. So it sucks. But you know what? I'm one of the lucky ones because I'm still able to work. I'm still able to have a job and earn money. And I know there's a lot of people out there struggling. I also know there's some people out there that are on unemployment that are actually making more money on unemployment than they would be if they were working. So that's an interesting thing that should be talked about as well. But I want to talk about, starting with the president, of course, but not all our politicians are seeing eye to eye on these subjects. Not all of our politicians agree, including our own mayor right here in Las Vegas, Carolyn Goodman, who is not seeing eye to eye with our governor, Governor Sisolak. So that's something that we're definitely going to talk about here. But I want to start with this. This was Donald Trump yesterday. He gave us his quote-unquote plan for gradually reopening the economy in his press conference yesterday. Have a listen to this.
We have states through a lot of talent are in a very good position, and they're getting ready to open. And over the next very short period of time, it's going to be up to the governors. We're going to work with them. We're going to help them. But it's going to be up to the governors. I think you're going to see quite a few states starting to open. And I call it a beautiful puzzle. You have 50 pieces, all very different. But when it's all done, it's a mosaic. When it's all done, it's going to be I think, a very beautiful picture.
Okay, first of all, what the hell are you talking about, Mr. President? This isn't a puzzle. We're talking about lives, okay, with your stupid analogies, number one. A beautiful puzzle. Just doesn't make any sense at all. But, the big issue here is not, to me, at this point, not Donald Trump. It's the governors. A lot of the governors are not agreeing with how to approach this thing, and our own mayor doesn't agree with our governors. So this was Mayor Carolyn Goodman. She did an interview with Channel 8, and this is Mayor Goodman basically, calling this whole thing, as far as what Sisolak has done, insanity. Have a listen to this.
I think the insanity of it, of the whole thing, was that we jumped into it without a plan, without proper information, without looking at history. And that's why we're a civilized society. You learn. And so we've never closed down the country. We have never closed down the state of Nevada. We have never closed down any state, ever. And so to me, that is not rational.
All right, so let me start by saying this. We had Oscar Goodman on the show yesterday. I love Oscar. I've known him for over a decade. He's a great guy. I have a tremendous amount of respect for him, and I have a lot of respect for his wife at all. I could not disagree. I think Carolyn Goodman has made a very big mistake here. First of all, calling it insanity. Okay, so if this has never happened before, what is your reasoning for opening up the country today? She doesn't say that. If this is insanity, and why she would even use that word is ridiculous. You know what would have been insane? If Governor Sisolak kept the strip open, that would have been insane. What do you think we should do, Mayor Goodman, with all due respect? Open everything up and put everybody at risk? It makes absolutely no sense at all. So this was Governor Sisolak's response to some of the critics, including the mayor, I would imagine, at yesterday's press conference. Have a listen to this.
I know it's tough to stay home. I understand that. But it's tough for it to have Nevadans die on your watch. I fully understand that. And those are the instances I have to weigh. And I'm putting the lives of my fellow Nevadans have had of any dollars. And we will open when the time is right. When the experts tell me and the data tells me that it's okay to open, then we're going to do it. And we're going to do it in a manner that's safe. And we'll get to where we need to get to.
Okay, here's what I don't understand. How can anybody disagree with that? He's going to listen to the experts and to the doctors. The mayor is calling it insanity. What do you people think out there? Do you think that the governor wants to ruin businesses? Do you think that the governor wants to hurt people? Do you think that's his objective here? No. He's doing the best job he can. He said it, and I believe him when he says he's going to act appropriately, not with his own opinion or listening to politicians or economists. He's going to do it when the doctors, when the professionals tell him it is safe to do so. I don't understand, Mayor Goodman, what's so insane about that. What would be insane to me is if you recklessly opened everything up today or yesterday and people got infected and people died. That would be insane for the selfishness of people that think that their business is going to go down the toilet and things are not going to get back to normal. Listen, I'd rather have people's businesses go down the toilet and people be alive. That's what I would rather have. So I don't understand why people continue to go after Steve Sisolak and make him out to be like the guy who wants to take down all these businesses, who wants to hurt the economy. Do you think when Steve Sisolak drives to work every day, he's thinking to himself, how do I ruin people? How do I ruin people in Las Vegas? You really think that's what he's trying to do? If you disagree, and listen, I haven't always agreed with Governor Sisolak, but these people, some of whom even call into this show, that have so much hatred towards Steve Sisolak, and then I say, well, what's your solution? What do you think he should have done differently? They don't have any answers. I'm tired of it. When I criticize Donald Trump, and I do on a regular basis, when I go after him, I tell him why I think he's doing it wrong, what he should do differently. I come up with reasons. I come up with examples. So if you're going to call into this show at 257-5396, again, the number to call if you want to be a part of this conversation, 702-257-5396. If you want to, maybe you have some praise, but maybe you dislike Steve Sisolak for whatever reason. You think he's handling this the wrong way. Fine. Tell me why you feel that way. Don't just go all after him. Tell me what you would have done differently. Tell me the mistakes that you think he's made. I'll tell you what I think he did. I think he saved lives. I know he saved lives when he decided to close down the strip. I think he showed some fortitude and some cojones, so to speak, for doing that. So the number to call again if you want to be a part of this conversation is 702-257-5396. Again, 257-5396. And I ask you this question. Do you agree with Mayor Carolyn Goodman? Do you think this is insanity? And I don't, she didn't mean insanity like insane times we're living in. She was basically calling out the governor for what he did as insane. She called if I could just finish, called that insanity. Okay? Now, do you agree with Carolyn Goodman? Or do you agree with Steve Sisolak? That's what we're talking about here. And again, that number to call, 702-257-5396.
She was not calling only what the governor did insane. She specifically mentioned the country being shut down as well for the first time ever, Brian. So that was part of the the insanity she integrated into her statement, and I think that Governor Sisolak had no choice but to shut down the Strip once the public was fully aware of what was going on. Once you had celebrities getting the virus, once there was travel bans. I mean, no one was going to come to the Strip at that point, and we've gone over this multiple times. The Strip was going to literally burn money at that point. But Brian, when you're unemployed, the chances of you dying goes up by 60%. An unemployed person has a 60% chance higher of dying than an employed person does. And right now, the state of Nevada has 350,000 unemployed people, Brian. The rate is going to hit probably 20 to 25%. Right now, there have been 3,241 cases and about 132 deaths. So if you have 400,000 unemployed people in Nevada, let's say, for 3 or 4 months, what are the chances that you're going to have more of those, considering the fact that if you're unemployed, you have a 60% higher chance of dying? What are the chances some of those are going to die?
You're also forgetting, if I could just respond to what you just said, you're also forgetting the fact that almost all of these people that have recently lost their jobs, and I would imagine those are the people that you are talking about, are able to collect unemployment. In fact, some of these people are making more money now than they did when they were employed. You're allowed to get unemployment. You're allowed to receive a stimulus check, but you're not adding that into account.
I am adding that into account, but it doesn't make a difference. They're still at home.
Doesn't make a difference.
They're not. No,
so they're making more money than they were working, but that doesn't make a difference.
They're not working right now, Brian. They're at home. They have no stress release whatsoever. If they have addictions, they're with their addictions.
So again,
they have extra money to pay for their addictions.
People have addictions without
responsibility, Brian.
We do this every day.
No, yeah, because you keep saying the same thing.
What is your point?
You keep saying saving lives, and actually, Brian, you're not. Because when you're unemploying 400,000 people, you're not saving. So you think we should reopen the country?
What is your reason for bringing this up?
I think that opening the country the way that was described yesterday it's a great idea. Absolutely.
So right now we should reopen the country.
What? Every single state?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
No, Brian. Did you listen to the press conference?
Yeah, I listen to every press conference.
Yeah.
I listen to this every day too, and it doesn't make any sense to me.
You say the same thing. I say the same thing. But I come at you with facts. You say we're saving lives. You don't really know if we are or not. You really have no idea how fast this virus spreads. No, you really don't.
Do you?
No, that's the whole point. None of us do.
Here's what we do.
But I do know that. I do know.
This is 10 to 20 times more serious than the flu.
Actually, we don't know that, Brian.
Actually, look at the deaths and look at the death toll.
We don't know.
Yes, we do.
No, we don't.
Look at
we don't know the mortality rate because
look at the death toll. What are you talking about?
We don't have widespread. We don't have the asymptomatic cases.
Look at the numbers you're talking about.
We don't know who has had this. We don't know who.
How many people are infected and are dead right now, according to the stats? Answer that.
According to the stats, there's 700,000 infected, and there's about 35,000 dead.
And what is the percentage of that?
4,000 of which were just added in New York.
And what is
so
the
it's actually
percentage
more
of
like
that?
30.
And what's the percentage of that?
But you're not factoring in asymptomatic cases or mild cases, people that weren't tested.
So again, what is your point? You just think
my point is that the mortality rate is a lot lower than you think it is, Brian. And
so this isn't as serious as you think it is.
Actually, here's a stat for you. If you're 85 years old, without the coronavirus, what are the chances that you die within 1 year in the United States? Do you have any idea?
No, I don't. Tell me.
The answer is 9.6%. With the coronavirus, it's about 13.6%. If you're 75, it's 3.9 to 8.9.
And your point?
The disparity, obviously there's a disparity there, but is it worth unemploying the entire country?
Well, this is where we...
And that's the question. I think the answer is absolutely not. And I love the phased-out plan. I think this makes sense. You're going to see a lot of states like Arizona, like Utah, like Wyoming, like South Dakota, like North Dakota that have not been really hit by this virus that are going to open up. They'll say they're in phase 1 or phase 2. What'll be interesting is if Democratic states that should probably open up don't open up when Republican states do for partisan purposes, and they hurt their own economy in the process. We'll see what happens with all that, Brian. But honest to God, the chances of you dying unemployed are 60% higher than you are when you are employed. And so if you've got 22 million people across the country, I mean, do the math. Have people died of this virus? Of course. But this virus is making the chance of you dying bigger, definitely bigger, if you're a specific age group. I mean, if you're 35, 25, 45, it's almost the exact same. It really does not affect a lot of people in that age range, at least from a mortality perspective. So I love what happened with the phasing, with the phases of the country being opened. I think it's going to work out very, very well. And you really don't know what the mortality rate is, Brian, because there has not been widespread testing. There has been of those who are severe enough to go to the hospital, or who have underlying conditions, or who are diabetic, but those like myself, Jason Stein, Campaign, among a lot of other people out there, we could have the virus. We could have had the virus at some point, but we have no symptoms to it. We have mild symptoms to it. And so you have to factor all those in. And right now we've been working for a month and a half based on incomplete data and making these decisions. And unemploying 22 million people, 400,000 of which are in Nevada, in my opinion, it does not guarantee to save lives.
You want me to talk now? Can I talk?
Yeah, absolutely, of course.
Thank you. We have a very big fundamental difference, and you talk about this every single day, and it drives me nuts. I refuse to compare unemployment numbers and stats of people that might be struggling to people that are dying from this virus. I think it is irresponsible. I know that it is wrong. It is insensitive to those that are continuing to lose their lives. Over 600 people died in New York. Now, if your number one concern are people that are unemployed, and by the way, many of the people that are unemployed are getting taken care of by unemployment. Okay, I know personally some people that are actually getting paid more money now than they did when they were working. Not everybody. There are people out there that are struggling. There's no question. But I would rather have people out there struggling financially than people dead. I still don't think you grasp how serious this virus is, because you keep talking about unemployment numbers and you keep talking about people that have addictions. But what you fail to ever really talk about on this show is how serious this virus is, how many people have died from this virus, and how many people are grieving and are suffering of losing loved ones. As I mentioned to you, I talked to a friend of mine the other day whose mother at 65 years old died with no underlying health conditions. She died of the coronavirus, and many others are, sadly. And I refuse to bring up unemployment numbers and try to correlate that to, well, we should open up the country regardless of how many infected people are out there, regardless of what the doctors are saying, regardless of how dangerous it might be to society, but to bring everybody back to everyday life because of the economy. I think it's irresponsible. I think it's wrong, and we fundamentally disagree on that, and I get very frustrated when you talk about that every day. You're entitled to an opinion, but let's see what some of the listeners think. It's 702.
Yes, groupthink.
At 702-257-5396. Let's go to Steve. Steve, you're first up on the Vegas Take.
Hey, what's up, Steve?
Good morning, guys. May I just say, just give me a minute. Science begins with the number 2. For something to be valid, it has to be repeatable, okay? Let's look at Japan. For some reason, I believe they have about 20 million people. They didn't get that many deaths. Why? Let's study what happened over there. As far as opening the country up, Brian and JD, I think it isn't time, because here's the situation. If it opens up too early, they're going to blame Trump, which, of course, it is his doings, and say everybody got sick. They open up too late. All right, we're going to suffer financially.
Right.
But what's better, to have your life
Exactly.
or to still be alive and suffer
Listen,
financially?
Steve, you're absolutely right, and that is the point I make to people all the time, like JD. Is there a chance that if we open up too early, more people are going to die? Yes. Is there a chance if we open up too late, the economy is going to continue to suffer? Yes. Weigh those two. What is more serious? In my opinion, and I think in most people's opinion, you'd rather have the economy continue to suffer a little bit than people die. To me, that's the issue.
Right. Brian, can I make one last point?
Yes, sir.
I know you got a lot of calls.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I just want to say, a lot of people, 90% of the population, don't know how to analyze statistics properly. When JD said about 65% of the unemployed have a 65% higher risk, let's look at the categories. Maybe some of the people had previous health conditions. Maybe some died in car accidents. You can't lump them all together. To just say that 65% increased probability of death just because of unemployment, you must include all the other parameters. One last note, guys, then I'm going to go. 50% of all the people who got in car accidents brushed their teeth and ate a hamburger the same day. What in the name of God has that got to do with anything? Nothing.
I
good day,
agree
guys.
with you,
Thank
Steve.
you for
Good
the
call,
show.
Steve. Appreciate it. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Glenn. Glenn, you're next up on the Vegas Take.
Hey, what's up, Glenn?
Hey, how you doing? I got 2 points. I think Sisolak and Goodman are both partially right. I think we should keep the casinos closed, but you could open up some of the smaller businesses locally, because it's the casinos that's going to spread the virus more than...
Can I comment on that, Glenn? I think that is a strong possibility that at some point down the road that will happen. Glenn, it is my personal opinion that I don't think the Las Vegas Strip is going to be open for months. I mean, it's not going to be open for a while. But you're right. I have heard that before, and I think there's a strong possibility that could happen where some of the small businesses, maybe even some of the local casinos would be open. But I got to be honest with you. Like I said, I don't see this Las Vegas Strip being open for months. Maybe throughout the summer, I don't know. But that's a good point you make, and I actually tend to agree with you on that. There might be some sort of compromise if it's safe, if it's healthy, if the doctors are saying they would give it the okay. 702-257.
Right, and the doctors already gave it the okay, yes.
702, the doctors gave it the okay for the Las Vegas Strip to
No,
open?
just have it for the country. For the governors to make the decisions based on what they think makes the most sense for their states.
Okay, so what doctor said it's okay to open up the Las Vegas Strip? Because that's what we're talking about.
No, I'm saying the doctors. You keep talking about the so are there different doctors now in Nevada than there are Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx? Those aren't those aren't the main doctors.
Okay,
now?
I'll answer that.
Okay.
Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx are obviously working within the Trump administration. Now the governors have the access to call those doctors if they do so, if they want to. But Governor Sisolak has his own experts and his own doctors, as every governor does throughout the country.
Okay, so the doctors, the absolute doctor, the expert changes based on who is making the decision. Then, okay.
What do you mean the expert?
Well, you've
changes?
been calling Fauci the utmost expert for all of this. You know, when Fauci says we can open up the country, we're going to open up the country. Well, now Fauci says we can open up the country.
It's not.
Birx says we can open up the country. He said, well, let's wait a minute here. Sisolak might have his own doctors to make these decisions.
First of all, I watched the press conference. Dr. Fauci didn't say, yes, we can open up the country. I don't know where you're getting that quote from. He did not say that. I know exactly what he said.
Fauci and Birx together put together those guidelines.
Yes.
Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3.
But that's not implemented right now.
To get the country. No, but then Donald Trump said the governors will make the decision as far as when to open up. That's exactly what happened.
But they didn't say in that press conference yesterday that they were ready to do that. Phase 1 throughout the entire country. They never made that statement.
I'm saying, but the fact that they put that together means that they expect some states to open up their economies and to open up their states. So the fact that they put those phases out there to even be used, those new guidelines, means
you're making an assumption.
No, I'm not making it. Why would they put it out there if they didn't have their blessing to open up the country, predicated or if those specific criterions were met?
Because if they believed that phase would go into effect ASAP, they would have said that in the press conference yesterday. What they said yesterday in the press conference was that when some of these states might be ready. They didn't say any of them were. They said when those states are ready, they would start with phase 1. They didn't give a date. They didn't say when they were ready. In fact, they didn't say any of the states were ready now. I think that's very important to note. And again, we just fundamentally disagree. I refuse to talk about money in correlation to people dying. I'm just not going to do that.
Let me ask you this, Brian. So the Las Vegas Strip generates what, $2.2 billion a year in tax revenue? And that money is used to pay for things like police officers, for example. Let's say the Strip is closed for 6 months and Nevada's tax revenue goes down by, I don't know, $1.5 billion. A lot of state expenses are not going to be able to be paid for. How do you not factor that in?
You don't think Governor Sisolak is factoring that in? We're not the economists. We're not the experts. You don't think Governor Sisolak is factoring that in?
Since I'm not an economist, I can't bring that up. Is that what you're saying?
Well, we can ask if we can ask Governor Sisolak if we can get him on the show, but I'm sure he's factoring all that into account. I'm pretty sure that government funding.
I really hope he is.
I'm pretty sure that government funding will allow police officers to continue to do their good work. I haven't heard from anybody that if the Strip continues to be closed, that we're not going to have enough police officers on the streets.
No, I'm saying factor in the tax revenue that comes from the Las Vegas Strip, from the tourism in the Las Vegas Strip over the course of a year, which is in the billions of dollars.
Okay.
If that money is not there, that's money that the state can't use to pay for whatever they want to pay for. And you have to factor that in along with the 400,000 that are about to be unemployed.
If you want to put those factors in, and that's why you think we should reopen the Strip on May 1st, that's fine. My factor, we got to take a break.
I didn't say the Strip.
All right, well, my factor is deaths, and if we are safe to go out there. That's my number one factor. My factor is, are we safe? Can we go out there without being infected? Are we going to lose more lives? That is my number one factor. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, you are not going to believe what Dr. Phil said on the Laura Ingraham show. Yeah, you're not going to believe it. Are you kidding me? Yeah, Dr. Phil. We'll play you that audio coming back here on the Vegas Take. 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.
Small business program have stalled. Correspondent Phil Mattingly reports Democrats want to add money for hospitals and state and local governments.
Democratic staff, Speaker Pelosi and Senate Democratic Leader Chuck Schumer, are continuing negotiations with Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin and his staff as well. They're going to continue those through the weekend with some hopes of trying to lock in some kind of agreement going forward.
New York residents going out in public must start wearing a mask or face covering starting this evening. Governor Andrew Cuomo says the death toll remains high.
The number of deaths, unfortunately, refuses to come down dramatically. 630. That is still breathtaking in its pain and grief and tragedy.
On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average up 375 points, the S&P up 41. I'm Ann Cates.
It's time to check the roads.
From the Letterman Road Traffic Studio. This report sponsored by Sam and Ash. Watch for slowing for a crash reported. Injury sustained Grand Canyon Drive at Richmar Avenue with emergency staging and lane restrictions expect slowing. Also, road work continues on I-15 northbound at the 215 Northern Beltway, eastbound slowing on the Northern Beltway from Losee to I-15. Sam and Ash remind you to be kind to one another and work to get through this together. Give them a call at 702-820-1234 or visit samandash.com because you deserve what's right. I'm John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
Prescription products require an online physician consultation and are only available if the physician determines a prescription is appropriate. Subscription required. See website for full details and important safety information.
Hey guys, good news. The expensive little blue pill is now generic, which means the prescription medication to treat ED is super affordable at 4hims.com. And now get your first online doctor's visit free at 4hims.com. That's right. Zero copay, no awkward face-to-face conversations to get your prescription. That's really good news. To start your free online visit, go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/joy. That's FORHIMS.com/joy.
I'm attorney Paul Powell. If you get hurt in a crash, did you know your lawyer can take more money than you? You get hurt and the lawyer gets rich. Not very fair, is it? I promise never to take more money than you.
Paul Powell. More lawyer, less fee.
Some restrictions apply.
Prescription products require an online physician consultation and are only available if the physician determines a prescription is appropriate. Subscription required. See website for full details and important safety information.
Hey guys, good news. The expensive little blue pill is now generic, which means the prescription medication to treat ED is super affordable at 4hims.com. And now get your first online doctor's visit free at 4hims.com. That's right. Zero copay, no awkward face-to-face conversations to get your prescription. That's really good news. To start your free online visit, go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/joy. That's FORHIMS.com/joy.
This message is for anyone looking for $500,000 to $1 million or more of affordable term life insurance, even if you have diabetes, high blood pressure, or taking anxiety meds. Here's an example. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe overweight with type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term life insurance may only cost about $200 a month. We're Term Provider, experts in finding affordable term life insurance for those that may not be in perfect health. If you've had prostate cancer, heart conditions, high cholesterol, or on prescription medications, you may still qualify for $500,000 to $1 million or more of affordable term life insurance. Get a quick quote by calling Term Provider at 800-529-2856. 800-529-2856. If you're looking for term life insurance but have type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, or have other health issues, call Term Provider at 800-529-2856 or visit termprovider.com. Termprovider.com.
1015 FM, 720 AM, KDON, the talk of Las Vegas. Sean Hannity, weekdays noon to 3 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 1015 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us on a Friday. By the way, coming up here in a little bit, former Nevada Attorney General George Chanos will be joining us here in a little bit. A lot of legal questions to ask him, especially with these people throughout the country that are going on strike, so to speak. What are the legal ramifications of that in this shutdown? So perfect person to ask those questions to and more. He'll be coming up here in a little bit. Congresswoman Dina Titus, we love it when she comes on. I'm going to ask her, what does she make of this somewhat of a feud, I think it's fair to call it that, between Mayor Carolyn Goodman and Governor Steve Sisolak. So the Congresswoman will be joining us in hour number 3 as well. So plenty more to get to, a lot to talk about. Before we get to your calls at 702-257-5396. I've never been a very big Dr. Phil fan. I think he's a complete clown. I've always felt that way about him. I don't think he has any idea what he's talking about. He appeared on the Laura Ingraham show. What a shocker. Laura Ingraham would put on another right-winger. That's just shocking to me that Laura Ingraham would do that. But anyway, Dr. Phil was on the Racist Witches show last night, and Dr. Phil said that we shouldn't shut down the country, because we don't do it for automobile deaths or cigarette-related deaths. Have a listen to this ridiculous audio.
250 people a year die from poverty. And the poverty line is getting such that more and more people are going to fall below that because the economy is crashing around us. And they're doing that because people are dying from the coronavirus. I get that. But look, the fact of the matter is we have people dying. 45,000 people a year die from automobile accidents, 480,000 from cigarettes, 360,000 a year from swimming pools. But we don't shut the country down for that. But yet we're doing it for this. And the fallout is going to last for years because people's lives are being destroyed.
Okay, you dope. First of all,
nothing dopish about that.
Really.
Nothing dopish
So
about
last I checked, JD, smoking a cigarette is a choice, is it not? If a person goes to a supermarket and catches the coronavirus, is that on them? Is that if you smoke a cigarette, it is a choice. When you get into a car, you know that you are taking a risk. It's called an accident. Accidents happen. Getting the coronavirus is completely different. Does anybody force you to smoke a cigarette?
No, you're assuming the risk when you go to the grocery store, though.
Does anybody
by that same logic?
Does anybody force you to smoke a cigarette?
Of course not.
Okay, so how can you compare smoking cigarettes and dying from cancer to the coronavirus? Please explain to me that logic.
No, I'm saying you're saying you're assuming the risk when you smoke a cigarette. You're assuming the risk when you go to the grocery store and there's a coronavirus crisis or an outbreak of some sort. And you assume the risk when you get into an automobile regardless.
So you want to compare smoking cigarettes?
You talk about assuming. Your whole premise was based on assuming the risk. You assume the risk under all those circumstances.
So
anytime you leave your house, whether there's a crisis for corona or not, you're assuming a risk.
So you agree with Dr. Phil, and you think it's fair to compare smoking cigarettes and dying. Hold on, if I could just finish. Smoking cigarettes and dying to the coronavirus, and you think that is a reason because of car accidents and people dying of cancer and heart disease from smoking cigarettes, that is a valid reason and a valid argument to reopen the country.
No, I'm saying, Brian, there's 8,000 people that died in the United States before this took place every single day.
What does that have to do with anything?
Because it's all about saving lives, right? That's everything. So
what does the 8,000 people that die every day have to do with it?
People die of a lot of different reasons, and smoking cigarettes is one of the things that he said. You always do that. You take one thing and you use it and you use it as an all-encompassing way to try to trap the person that you're talking to.
I'm not doing that.
He talked about 5 different things. It wasn't just smoking cigarettes.
Okay. Go ahead. Let's talk about it.
You always assume your risk.
Let's talk about
whenever you're doing anything in this country, you assume your risk.
So you think that's what the president and the governor should say? Assume the risk?
And people die of a lot of... Again, Brian, we have honestly no idea what this mortality rate is. We don't know how many have this virus.
You're making my point for me. So open up the country because we don't know the mortality rate? That's ridiculous.
I'm just saying there's a very, very good chance that it's a lot lower. Not only that, but
you don't know that for a fact. You don't know that.
If there is one asymptomatic case in the country right now, one, that has not been tested for the coronavirus, who has a coronavirus, and I know that for a fact. That's all that means. That means that there are asymptomatic or mild cases, people who have the virus or who have had the virus since, we'll say, March 5th, who have not been tested for it, who will not die from it. That, Brian, automatically drops the mortality rate. So, yes, I do know that for a fact, assuming that there is one asymptomatic or mild case that has taken place, a silent carrier, so to speak, over the course since March 5th. And you know how I know that? Because there was for a number of reasons, but there was a study done on, and I like to comment about studies, but there was a study done in New York. They figured out that about 15% of all pregnant women had the coronavirus, and 87.9% of those pregnant women in New York hospitals were asymptomatic. So right there, that is the answer. There is a lot of asymptomatic cases, or there have been. That's why this is such a scary virus, because it's not someone is coughing and they've got a high temperature and you know when they're sick. There's a lot of people right now that they don't know that they're sick and you don't know that they're sick. That's why this virus is so dangerous, because of the asymptomatic and the silent carriers. That's the biggest worry. It's not those who are openly severely ill, because you know they're sick. I mean, if someone's walking into a Smith's or a Vons or a Costco and they're coughing up a storm, you can turn them away. But if you're asymptomatic, you have no idea. You could be at a table, you could be walking in a grocery store, you could be anywhere, and there could be someone that could give you the virus just by breathing. And that's why the virus is so terrifying. But until we really know how many people either had the virus, have antibodies to it, or currently have the virus, we're not going to know the mortality rate. And we can't make a definitive statement as far as how many lives are being saved by this. Because again, right now there could be 30-40% of the country that have the virus. And it's all based on positive testing, right? Like a place like New York City, where it's 40%, where there's vertical living. Everybody lives on top of each other. You have a major public transit system. A place like that with a strong population density, the chance that virus has been spread and there is a lot of asymptomatic or silent carriers is a lot higher than a place like a Wyoming or a South Dakota or an Arizona, where it's spread out and you don't have a major population density. You don't have a giant urban area where you have hundreds of thousands, or in the case of New York, millions of people literally living on top of each other. You don't have that.
Okay, I'm not sure what that has to do with Dr. Phil, because we were talking about Dr. Phil, and I was very frustrated with Dr. Phil's statements about automobile deaths, comparing the coronavirus to automobile deaths, which I think is idiotic and probably one of the dumbest things you could do. Comparing it to cigarette-related deaths, that's what I was referring to when we played the Dr. Phil audio. I think it's idiotic, ignorant. It is a choice to smoke a cigarette. To compare that choice and risk to somebody just going out and playing with their kid in a park, or going to the supermarket, or playing a pickup basketball game. I'm sorry, I'm just saying it. That opinion to me is idiotic. It is idiotic to think that comparing smoking a cigarette to coronavirus is the same. So why don't we just open everything up? It is so ridiculous. We have a lot of people on hold. We want to get your thoughts on this at 257-5396. Let's go to Lou. Lou, thank you for waiting patiently on hold. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, Lou?
Lou, are you there, my friend? 702-257-5396 is the number to call. I have no idea who the next caller is. Matthew, you're next on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
This is Pat. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry about that, Pat. What's going on?
That's all right. Hey, you guys are going to agree with me and disagree with me. I think Dr. Phil is partially right. I think you're right. I think JD's right. I think everybody's right in their argument. So the question is balance. How do we balance getting things back in order, back in line? And I know that talk about incremental opening of businesses, county by county, state by state. You guys are both right in your arguments. I agree on both sides. So there has to be balance.
Can I ask you a question? If you don't mind, let me ask you, what do you agree with when it comes to Dr. Phil, when he compares it to cigarette smoking and automobile deaths?
Maybe I should rephrase myself. I agree with what he said in regards to the numbers of people dying. I agree to that part.
Okay, but you agree with me then that it's completely ridiculous to compare cigarette-related deaths to the coronavirus, and that's a reasoning for reopening the country.
Well, yes and no. That's what I'm saying. That I'm seeing both sides of the argument, and that's again brings me back to the word balance.
Right.
Okay, I think that's very dangerous, though.
It's not, Brian. It's not dangerous to integrate science and economical damage and public morale, which Trump has done every single day since he's been doing the press conferences. That's his entire job is to minimize deaths, minimize economic damage, and make people happy to be sitting at home with nothing to do, basically.
All right. Well, hypothetically speaking, I'm wondering, JD, and God forbid, because I don't want this to happen, but God forbid somebody in your family dies. I wonder if the next day you'd be talking about the unemployment numbers. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Joey. Joey, you're next on the Vegas Take.
Hey, what's up, Joey?
Yeah, let me preface this by saying I was born and raised in Las Vegas. Born at Sunrise Hospital, graduated from Rancho High School in UNLV, and I'm 44 years old. I've seen a lot of changes in this town. For Sisolak to, let me say this, and this is no offense to you, Brian, but JD, you have a tendency to need to make sense. And Democrats and liberals aren't going to let things like sense mess up their argument. They're not going to do that.
Okay, instead of making generalizations, can you tell me where you agree with Steve Sisolak and where you disagree with him and what you would have done differently instead of making large liberal generalizations?
Where I disagree with Steve Sisolak is this is not Chicago where you got the headquarters to Walgreens, Abbott Laboratories, State Farm, Atlanta, where you got the headquarters to UPS.
Okay, I get all that. What would you do
Only
differently?
thing you have here is the Strip, and if without the Strip, you're just a little desert town.
So you don't
Nothing
think
else.
people can gather in more than 10 people if they're off the Strip? Is that your point? Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is, when you keep the Strip shut down, who do you think you are? You're not these other cities. You cannot rebound from keeping. That's all you have.
So what are you
That is your
saying?
economy.
So what are you saying? We should just reopen everything? Is that your point, Joey?
What I'm saying is, this needs to have. It should have had a rigorous debate.
A rigorous debate. So you disagree with Sisolak closing down the Strip?
Let me say this. This reminds me, as a Republican,
Won't
in
answer the question.
2001. Can I just say this?
Well, you're not answering my questions. I mean, you're making generalizations, and I'm giving you specific questions.
I'm going to make it like this. In 2001, when we went to war with Iraq, I disagree with that. But it was everybody that did not agree with that was called, "Oh, you were anti-American. You were siding with the terrorists."
Nobody told me that. I was anti-Iraq. I don't know what you're talking about. If you could please answer my questions. This has nothing to do with Iraq. What would you do differently? You're going against Steve Sisolak. You've made general comments about liberals. You keep saying, well, there should have been a debate. I'm asking you a very specific question. Do you think Steve Sisolak did the right thing by closing down the Strip? What exactly would you do differently?
No, I don't think you did the right thing. But then
you think this? Okay, so no, hold on. Let's go with that for a second. You think the Strip?
He's going to definitely call you a moron.
You think, if I could just speak for myself, you think that the Strip should have been open this whole time? Is that your take, sir?
You could have done something. Yeah, it could have been something done differently than closing.
Is it a yes or no question? Yes, it is. Would you have kept the Strip open? You can't criticize the governor and then not answer these questions. Would you have kept the Strip open, and would it still be open now? Yes or no? Answer the question.
I definitely would have, simply because.
All right, well, you would have killed, you probably would have killed millions of people, and I would call you a murderer. Have a nice day, sir. Have a nice day. Have a nice day, sir.
Again, Brian, keeping the Strip open because it's so dependent on tourism.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. I mean,
Joey the murderer just called in.
Joey the murderer. So it's crazy. So if someone agrees with you, they can say, yes, I agree.
So are you okay?
But if they, let me finish.
Innocent people would have died if the Strip was open.
If I could finish, please, Brian. If I could finish.
Go ahead.
If I could finish. Okay. So if someone doesn't agree with you, though, they have to not only say why they can't just say, oh, I don't agree with you. They have to explain themselves.
Yeah, that's usually what you do with an opinion.
As to why they don't agree with you.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yes,
So anyone who doesn't agree with you has to explain themselves as to why and what.
Do you agree with that caller? You think the Strip should have been open this whole time?
I've been saying for a week and a half that economically it would make no sense at all for the Strip to be open while this is taking place.
Okay. Well, that guy not saying a week and a half ago. He's saying from day one the Strip should have been open. It's idiotic.
What he was not factoring in was the fact
people dying. He's not factoring in people dying.
People wouldn't come. People wouldn't come, Brian.
He's right. I have to agree with JD.
Okay, people would not come, so it wouldn't make a difference. You
could say keep everything open.
You could say people would die, but I'm saying they wouldn't be here. They wouldn't be here to die.
Okay,
because they wouldn't come.
All right. Well, I think that guy.
Now on May 1st, do I think everything should be open? Yes, I do.
All right, let's go back to the call.
I think they should have the option to open up now. Now, do I think the Strip will open up until June 20th? No, I don't, because they depend on other states being opened up. They depend on, in this case, domestic tourism to actually make enough money to keep their doors open, Brian.
All right, we got a full board, so I want to try to get to as many phone calls as I can at 257-5396. Let's go to Troy. Troy, you're next. What's going on?
Hey, Troy.
Morning. Hey, I think the governor made a great call shutting everything down. And then I think if he believes and his doctors have enough data that the virus is so contagious and deadly that businesses, even that are willing to abide by social distancing guidelines, can't open up yet, then I think he's putting our grocery workers in peril. And if one of them dies, then, according to some standards, he could go to prison for.
Well, here's where I agree with you. Here's where I agree with you, Troy. And by the way, I agree with most of what you said. I do think there needs to be more parameters and more rules or laws, whatever you want to call them, when it comes to these supermarkets. Because you're right. These cash register people, the people that are stocking and all that other stuff, they are in harm's way. Just like, maybe not as much as a doctor or a nurse, but there's no question they're around people all day long, the people that work in the post office. So you're right, Troy. I agree with you, and I think there needs to be more strict parameters for people that work in those positions. I completely agree with you.
And do you think that, because I know the president's coming out with some guidelines, and people say let's open it back up, and when I hear open it back up, I don't hear let's go back to the old way. I hear let's open it up slowly.
Right.
Let's wear masks. Let's
Sure.
social distance.
Yeah, and I think that's the vigilant way of doing it when that does happen. And let's also remind people are still going to be scared. People aren't going to be going out there in droves, and I understand
some
that.
are, and a lot aren't, Brian. For example, there's a Facebook group called Michiganders that are against excessive quarantine that has 500,000 Facebook members in it, Brian. I mean, you had 50,000 people basically either march or drive on the Lansing Capitol 2 days ago.
While wearing masks.
That's fine, but there are a lot of people right now. And now, do I think that maybe every single citizen should be sent a mask? Yeah, I mean, I've actually invested in a couple of masks myself. I don't think it's a horrible idea to wear a mask, but the fact of the matter remains, New York City is way different than what's going on pretty much anywhere else in the country except New Jersey. 5 states right now are responsible for 65% of deaths and 60% of cases.
Michigan is actually the third highest number of cases. It's New York, New Jersey, then Michigan.
All right, let's try to get to more phone calls.
Odd that the protests are happening there.
Let's go to Chris, 257-5396. Chris, you're next on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, Chris?
Hey, guys, thanks. Great show. Hey, look, it was a quick comment, and then I'll hang up, and you guys can respond if warranted. Sisolak was not irresponsible to close down the Strip and all the businesses, but what I think was total insanity was to, basically wish all these workers into the cornfield of unemployment and to do nothing in the way of a plan to bolster the unemployment system. The phone is constantly busy. Brian, you said people are getting $600 a week. Those are the lucky few who have actually been able to get through to the office to file a claim. The websites crashed constantly. The phone is chronically busy. By 8:30, they open at 8 a.m. By 8:30, the phone queues are full for the rest of the day.
Sure, let me comment on that.
And then one last thing, just quick. Sisolak received federal guidance on April 5th for the compensation for gig workers like Airbnb people, Uber drivers, all of those people in that gray area, so they could receive their money. It's the 17th. They still have not implemented the system to compensate them.
Yeah, that's
So all those
inexcusable.
people, they could have had their money by the 5th if they had some preparation involved.
Well, Chris, let me say this. Chris, everything you've just said is absolutely fair criticism. And even though most of the people that I know are doing okay and they've received their unemployment benefits, you're right. It's extremely difficult for people to get through on the phone lines. There should have been some sort of thing put in place. And by the way, it's not just Sisolak. This is going on throughout the country. I don't want to just blame the state of Nevada. A lot of these unemployment benefit websites are very, very difficult to get through because they've never had to deal with this type of volume before.
Nevada is by far the worst because per capita, Nevada has, we're literally looking at 25% unemployment. That might break a national record, Brian. Do you realize that? And the system is archaic, and Trump actually made reference to that a month and a half ago. He said all these states, a lot of their structures are very, very old. They're not going to be able to handle this much traffic. And Nevada is the poster boy for that particular situation.
Okay, but again, it goes back to the circle of what I always say with you, and that even though some people might be struggling to get those unemployment benefits, and even though the website wasn't set up the way it should have set up, that is also should not be a mitigating factor in a reason to dangerously open up the country before it should be open.
It is frustrating, but I believe at least in Nevada and some other states there will be some retroactive pay for people who can't get through and sign up.
Which is a good thing. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Alex. Alex, you're next up on the Vegas Take. Thank you, Alex. Alex must have just received his unemployment benefits. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. I don't know who the next caller is.
Austin.
Austin? Okay, Austin, thank you for calling into the Vegas Take. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, Austin?
Austin, are you there, sir? Go ahead, Austin.
Hey, you there?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yep.
Okay, I'm just calling to get educated, I guess. I want to know what the difference between the swine flu pandemic and the H1N1 and then this virus is. What's the difference?
Well, the big difference between this virus is they've never seen anything like it before, and there's no cure for it. Also, the ways of getting this virus is easier than any other virus we've seen in our lifetime. For example, someone could just talk a foot away from you, not even cough or sneeze, but just by talking, you can contract the virus. Any touch, it lasts a while on objects. JD talked about it the other day on the bottom of your feet. I mean, we've never seen a virus. The problem, there's two main issues with this virus, Austin, in my personal opinion. I think most doctors would agree with me. The two biggest problems with this virus is we don't have anything that can cure it. Obviously, that's problem number one. And problem number two, how easy it is to get it from other people. So it's a really bad recipe for disaster.
Well, and it's not just how, again, it would be different if you knew who had it. So it's not only very contagious,
it's silent.
It's contagious for those who are not showing any symptoms.
Right, and it's silent.
Yeah.
Right.
18,000 people died from H1N1.
Yeah,
in 1 year.
I thought it was
Did you know
12,000.
that?
I thought it was 12,000.
Yeah, sure.
Well, so the difference is Obama and Trump, pretty much, is what I'm
No,
hearing.
I think I think if this was not an election year, the coverage would be a lot different. I do believe that.
Well, let me say this though.
And if we,
the president had three.
From China in the last 2 years over billions of dollars.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird too.
Yeah, it is. I agree with you. There's a lot of weird things going on
I'll
here.
talk about that later.
Donald
Thanks,
Trump.
brother.
Thank you. Appreciate the call.
Thanks for the call, Austin.
Trump did have 3.5 years in office. It's not like he just took over either. So for those that want to blame, and I know he wasn't blaming Obama, he was praising Obama actually. Let's go back to the calls.
He was saying the media would not have responded this way under the circumstances of it was Barack Obama that was.
Well, I don't think
president.
Obama would handle the press conferences the way Donald Trump does when he attacks people left and right and he brags about ratings and he makes a video, a 4-minute video.
He attacks them when he gets attacked, but he's been doing that since the start of his presidency. So again, to your point, you should not be surprised by that.
702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to John. John, you're next on the Vegas Take.
Hey, what's up, John?
John, go ahead. You're next. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to L. L, you're next on the Vegas Take.
Finally. Good morning, guys.
Hi, L.
Brian, like you, I know someone right now who is, I'm actually from New Orleans. I know someone right now who's in the hospital suffering with this. It's different when you know people, and his only issue was going to work. He works at one of these plants. These plants are breeding grounds for all these diseases. They did not have masks. They didn't have anything. So I, like you, am really insulted when I hear people say about going to work and money and all of this.
Well, talk to JD because he makes this argument every day.
I'll tell you something. So I have two friends back in Omaha, Nebraska, that were recovering from drug addiction, and they were not able to go to their meeting in person that helped keep them sober. And a couple of weeks ago, two friends actually relapsed on their drug, and they had an overdose and they died. So I do have a little bit now. I firmly believe that if they were not at home, if they could have been able to go to their in-person meetings to maintain their sobriety, that would have not have taken place. So it happens on both sides of the equation. And I'm sorry to hear about your friend. I hope your friend gets better, but you have to. I like to factor in the possible damages that are taking place from those who are unemployed, from those who are battling addiction.
Let her respond to that. Go ahead, El.
Yes, please. My only response to that is going to be, now, you keep saying people that are unemployed and all of this, they could do all of these things. I happen to be one who's unemployed. I know that I qualify for the unemployment. However, it's so long. It's a process, and I know it's going to be a while. I have no intentions of doing anything drastic. I mean, it makes no sense. It's inconvenient, but I have no intentions. And Brian, you were saying that people that are unemployed are going to get more money than they earned.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I had to cut you off, El, because we're up against a hard break. But coming up next, we're going to be speaking with former Nevada Attorney General George Chanos. George Chanos coming up next on the Vegas Take, right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
Hi, it's David Masters. Join me and my brother Alan for Advice Line, 10 to midnight, Monday through Friday, right here on 720 KDON and on 101.5 FM. That's Advice Line, America's live radio counseling program. If you've got problems, we've got your answers. Monday through Friday, 10 to midnight.
When times are tough, Vegas people stay Vegas strong. Yes, Air Conditioning and Plumbing is here with you and our community anytime you need us. Together we'll make it through, stronger than ever. Stay safe, Vegas.
Now is the time for peace of mind. If you need health insurance, you may be eligible for a qualified health insurance plan through Nevada HealthLink. Enroll now through May 15th. Visit NevadaHealthLink.com/SEP or call 1-800-547-2927.
Jim Marsh, Chrysler, Jeep, Kia, and all of their employees and their families are here with a reminder about COVID-19. Please wash your hands often and protect yourself and your families. They want all Nevadans to stay healthy.
Your home for Sean Hannity. KDWN Las Vegas, KKLZ HD2 Las Vegas, a Beasley Media Group station.
Special report, coronavirus update. Congress continues efforts to reach a deal on additional relief for small businesses, even though formal proceedings are done for the week.
The House stands adjourned until 10:30 a.m. on Tuesday, April the 21st, 2020.
That's what a pro forma session sounds like, a brief gavel in and a brief gavel out. And that's what's been going on since the coronavirus forced a shutdown of normal proceedings in Congress. But negotiations continue to replenish funds for small businesses, state and local governments, and hospitals. Hopes are high that the Senate could pass that measure on Monday, when another pro forma session will be held, followed by the House on Tuesday. Linda Kenyon, Washington.
The number of confirmed coronavirus cases in the U.S. has topped 672,000, with the death toll rising above 33,000. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average gaining 451 points, the S&P up 48, the Nasdaq up 55. I'm Ann Cates. New York remains a hot spot for COVID-19. Governor Andrew Cuomo says the Trump administration needs to provide more money to states.
Don't ask the states to do this. It's up to the governors, up to the governors, up to the governors. Okay, is there any funding so I can do these things that you want us to do? No. That is passing the buck without passing the bucks.
Beaches in Jacksonville, Florida will be reopening to the public. Correspondent Rosa Flores.
It would include restricted hours and social distancing, but according to the mayor, this decision was made in conjunction with first responders and law enforcement, and even cited Governor Ron DeSantis' stay-at-home order, which states that recreational activities are essential.
President Trump's former attorney Michael Cohen will be let out of federal prison because of the pandemic. Cohen will serve the rest of his sentence under home confinement. I'm Ann Cates.
It's time to check the roads.
From the Leonard Road Traffic Studio.
This report sponsored by Liberty Mutual Insurance, where you only pay for what you need. Watch for slowing for a crash reported on Nellis Boulevard at Flamingo, or avoid heavy delays. Use an alternate. You could use Mountain Vista or the 95 instead. Also, police and fire on scene for a crash on Grand Canyon Drive south of Russell. Expect heavy slowing there as well. Or you could use Wallapai or Fort Apache Road instead. And one more, an accident at Pavilion Center north of Alta. Nobody should have to pay for one-size-fits-all insurance coverage. Liberty Mutual customizes your coverage so you only pay for what you need. I'm John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
It's open enrollment season, and Medishare is the Christian healthcare sharing ministry that saves most families about $500 a month. Google Medishare and see if it's a fit for you. Medishare, healthcare you can believe in.
You've heard me talk about Homey and how they will save you thousands of dollars when you buy or sell a home. Not only are they disrupting the traditional real estate model, but I am blown away by how they are investing in our local community during these tough times. I couldn't be more proud to endorse Homey, and here's why. Homey is committing up to $100,000 to the United Way of Southern Nevada to help keep people in their homes through rent and mortgage assistance for those impacted by COVID-19. For every home bought or sold with Homey over the next 90 days, they will donate $500 to the United Way. Even more importantly, Homey will rebate their entire $2,500 listing fee back to you if you are forced to sell your home due to this crisis. That's right, no selling fee. That's huge. It's amazing to see a new company in Las Vegas step up in such a big way. Text JD to 88588 to buy or sell with Homey. Again, text JD to 88588. Stay safe and save thousands. Homey really does have our back.
I'm Todd Graves of Raising Cane's. We've always operated with the highest standard food safety, cleanliness, and health. I know how important it is to have a trusted, safe, and clean place to feed you and your loved ones. Raising Cane's is open and here to serve you through our drive-thrus and takeout. One love.
Across the Southwest, the Salvation Army is serving meals for kids and families facing food insecurity, meeting the needs of senior citizens who may feel isolated, providing rent and utilities assistance to those facing financial crisis, and so much more. Visit SalvationArmySouthernNevada.org to give today.
101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON, the talk of Las Vegas. The opinions of the hosts on KDWN are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or Beasley Media Group.
Hello, everyone. This is President Trump, the greatest president in the history of presidents. And the only show I listen to is the top-rated show, Sharp and Shapiro. They are the best.
Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us on a Friday. Yeah, we're all struggling, ladies and gentlemen, some more than others, but trust me, this isn't fun for anybody, not even for those doing radio shows in broadcasting live from my kitchen table. Coming up here, hour number 3, we're going to be speaking with Democratic Congresswoman Dina Titus. Coming up here in a little bit as well, we're going to go over Stephen Mnuchin's comments he made about these $1,200 stimulus checks. But joining us on the line right now, he's joined us before. We always appreciate it when he takes some time to join us. That is former Nevada Attorney General George Chanos joining us. George, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Doing good. I appreciate
Doing great, George. Thanks for coming back.
Appreciate you taking some time to join us. By the way, important to note that he was appointed by Governor Kenny Gwinn back on October 26, 2005. All right, well, let me ask you the first question, Mr. Attorney General. Tell us a little bit about how you're doing. How's your family holding up? Is everybody healthy? And how are you dealing with this quarantine coronavirus situation?
We're doing well under the circumstances. So I'm at my kitchen table as well, and my wife is sheltering in. The whole family. My daughter's got her own house, sheltering in there, and my sisters are sheltering in at their homes. We're trying to, observe rational protocols and maintain social distancing if and when we need to go out. We're trying to limit the amount of time that we do spend outside of the house, right now at least.
Right.
I'm sure that's going to taper off over time, probably sooner than later.
Yep.
And, we'll recognize the new reality that we live in, and we'll, take common sense measures to continue to protect ourselves.
I think you said the important part there, common sense. I think we all need to have common sense. You're right. And we're glad you're healthy and your family's healthy, George. We're happy to hear that. I want to ask you a little bit about Nevada, which you know so well. We have the governor, as you know, who not going to open up the Strip anytime soon. Don't know if it's going to be May 1st or not. He says he's going to be listening to his doctors and the professionals. And then you have Mayor Carolyn Goodman, who's saying something completely different, right? I mean, we have Carolyn Goodman that basically is calling what Sisolak is doing, and she's saying some things that I don't necessarily agree with, as calling it insanity. What's your make on that? Kind of the mayor and the governor not seeing eye to eye on this, and where's your opinion on this?
Well, my opinion is with the governor. My opinion is that our priority, the priority of any public official, is the safety and security of its citizens, and that the priority should be the health and welfare of its citizens. Is a multidimensional issue, because health and safety don't only revolve around the virus; they also revolve around unemployment and the devastation of Nevada's businesses. So, you have to weigh both of those things. But to suggest that, part of the reason that we have the numbers that we have in Nevada is that we have taken the steps that we have taken. Had we not taken those steps, imagine, 40 million tourists from around the world visiting Nevada every year. Now, that would have fallen off regardless of what we did. But having large numbers of people from all over the world coming into Nevada's casinos would have been horrific. I mean, absolutely horrific.
You know what, George? That is the point I make on this show every single day. That the loss in this state could have been unimaginable if Sisolak decided to keep the Strip open, and I'm glad to hear you say that, because I think it's very important.
You have to assume that tourists were still going to come to the Strip, and I'm not convinced that enough tourists to even keep the Strip open we're going to come to the Strip. George, I have a question about automation.
I'm not convinced they're going to come if going to open the door tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
No, I think that the Strip will probably open early June, mid-June, something along those lines. But George, do you think that with the 22 million that are unemployed right now in the United States, and the $600 extra a week towards your unemployment for 4 months, to me this looks like it's the start of what could potentially be a living wage? And we've talked about automation before. We've had the conversation that you believe automation will be taking a lot of the jobs from the United States. Do you think this is kind of a good step in that possible direction under very, very, poor circumstances?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question because the concept of a universal basic income is something that has been floated by a lot of people in the tech community. Andrew Yang was a big proponent of this, and the idea was that every person would get a stipend, essentially. Whether that's $1,000 a month or something more. They would essentially get this money for doing nothing. And the reason that they were going to get this money, the reason that had been advanced or has been advanced, is essentially that automation is going to devastate employment in a number of areas over the next 10 years. And that's actually quite likely that automation is going to have a tremendous impact on employment. The World Economic Forum forecasts major economic disruption over the next 5 years, and that forecast was before the pandemic.
Right.
And McKinsey and Company has said that 47% of jobs today in the United States are susceptible to automation based on existing technology. So let me give you an example. There's a company called Convariant that is a robotics company that has just developed, they've just come out with a robot that can sort packages more efficiently than humans. So Amazon employs however many people around the world packages and put them into various bins. Machines can now sort 10,000 SKUs, 10,000 different items. So you put a table full of 10,000 different items, different packaging, different reflective properties on the packaging. May affect the scanning reader of the robot. Different type styles, different manufacturers, different configurations. And this robot can sort those 10,000 units at speed that would put the Amazon employee way into the bonus category of compensation. And they can do it with 99% better accuracy. So they can do it faster than the vast majority of Amazon, and they can do it more accurately than the vast majority of Amazon employees. And they work 24/7, and you don't have to have health insurance for them.
They don't get tired.
They don't call in sick. So anything can be automated, will be automated. You think about driverless cars. You think about Uber. And you think about the number one job in the United States for an American male is a truck driver. And all these jobs, Chrysler Dahmer was testing driverless semis on Nevada's highways in 2017. And so, they're now doing cross-country trips with driverless semis. And you're going to wipe out these jobs. So the issue is, what do you do? If you got 8 million fast food workers, you got 3.9 million Uber drivers, you got 3 million truck drivers, you got all these people that are in this gig economy and doing these things that are, essentially the type of jobs that can be replaced by technology. And you've got the economic incentive of employers to want to, choose the most efficient mechanism to run their business. They're all going to be moving towards automation. So what do we do with the public that becomes unemployed? And the idea of universal basic income is to put a tax technology so that the technology that is displacing all of these workers will essentially pay for a subsidy for these individuals. And I have my concerns about universal basic income because I think it could disincentivize a lot of people from working. It's very different than what our historical traditions have been. But on the other hand, we are moving into a different reality, and this pandemic kind of highlights the nature of a different reality. And today we're all enveloped in this different reality of the pandemic. Tomorrow we're all going to be enveloped in this new reality of automation. This is what my book is about. I wrote this book called Millennial Samurai: A Mindset for the 21st Century, and it's about these issues. It's about the fact that the world is changing rapidly and radically, and people are going to have to figure out how to dance with machines and how to surf a tsunami of technological change. And it's going to require continuous adaptation. It's going to require a mindset that, instead of being derailed or disabled by these changes, it's going to require a mindset that embraces change and that looks for opportunity in adversity, and that is able to pivot and adapt to changing circumstances. It's going to require lifelong learning. It's going to require people to read books and to raise their game.
Yeah, and definitely, and I wanted to, and we'll get to a little bit more about your book in a little bit. If you're just joining us, we're speaking with the former Nevada Attorney General, George Chanos, who's joining us on the line. George, I wanted to ask you this because I think this is important. Earlier, and I know you've been an attorney for a long time. So earlier in the week, Donald Trump said he had total authority over these governors. Now, in the last few days, he's walked back those comments and he said, "Governors, call your own shots." My question to you is this: why would Trump say that earlier in the week? What would be his reason for saying that he had total authority? I would imagine you disagree with that.
Well, it raises the issue of states' rights versus federalism. And he said something similar in 2017 to Rahm Emanuel in Chicago. He said, get your act together, or I'm going to send in the feds. Stop the carnage in Chicago. And, basically what he was saying is that, the president does have certain executive authority that allows him to come into certain situations, emergencies, when we're at war. There's certain powers that the executive has that are well beyond the powers that he enjoys today. So if he were to declare an emergency, there are about 120 provisions that would come into play that would broaden his authority quite dramatically. Yeah. And so, he does have some pretty draconian powers as the chief executive if he were to declare an emergency, or if he were to say, for example, we have reason. I mean, there's a lot of news right now out of relating to China's involvement in this coronavirus, right. And nobody is claiming that this was intentional, and nobody is claiming that this was an act of war. But if the president were to claim that, it would further broaden his powers. So all he would have to do is claim it. So there is this. I can give you a little history if you'd like on states' rights versus federalism that might kind of drive home this point. But basically, you've got the 10th Amendment to the United States Constitution that says that the enumeration of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. And basically what that means is that if the federal government has not, if what the federal government is doing is not expressly set forth in the Constitution, then in the absence of that, those rights are presumed to be left to the states or to the people.
Right.
Now, there's been a debate going back to the Constitutional Convention, and maybe even before that, between the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists. John Adams was a proponent of the Federalists. Patrick Henry, Thomas Jefferson were proponents of states' rights. And basically, this tension between state and federal rights was the underlying cause of the Civil War. States believed that they could or should have the right to engage in the slave trade, and the federal government believes that it was an abomination.
I want to ask you a little bit about recent history, if I may. And again, this is former Nevada Attorney General George Chanos joining us, and I appreciate that explanation. And I'm going to go back to Donald Trump. Listen, I understand you're in the Republican Party, but an attorney.
No, I'm not in the Republican Party.
Oh, I assumed you were in there. You were.
No,
you were.
I was a former Republican Attorney General.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
In 2016,
gotcha.
I left the Republican Party and became nonpartisan.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that.
I am not a fan of either political party.
You know what? We agree on that. We have a lot in common when it comes to that. I want to ask you about a tweet that President Trump just put out. I don't want to put you in a peculiar situation, but this is why I criticize Donald Trump on a daily basis. I want to read this tweet to you. It was 53 minutes ago. Quote, Biden and Obama were a disaster in handling the H1N1 swine flu. Polling at the time showed disastrous approval numbers. 17,000 people died unnecessarily and through incompetence. Also, don't forget their $5 billion Obamacare website that should have cost close to nothing. At a time, Mr. Attorney General, when we're facing a very serious pandemic, people are dying. People want to know how they're going to get their next paycheck. Do you think it's appropriate for the President of the United States to continue to do what he's doing with these tweets?
Well, I am not a fan of a lot of President Trump's tweeting. I think, honestly, it's interesting. Your question raises a very interesting point. There was a study recently that said that, so let me give you the short answer. The short answer is no. I don't think it's appropriate, but let me expound on that a little bit.
Sure.
There was a recent study that was done that shows that the way that we look at the coronavirus is influenced by the way that we look at politics. For example, Democrats generally believe that this is a much bigger deal than Republicans do.
Right.
Republicans are less concerned about this pandemic and are more concerned about opening up business and the economy and the damage that closure is doing to the economy. Carolyn Goodman is a good example. I don't know if she's a Republican or a Democrat, and I really don't care, but her views are consistent with Republican sentiment. Sisolak's views are consistent with Democratic sentiments, which are that this is a very serious public health crisis. The scientific community globally believes that this is a real danger to public safety. We have entire countries that are closing. I mean, Italy, 60 million people have been shut down. China shut down 60 million people. India shut down 1.3 billion or 1.6 billion people. This isn't just, the United States or Las Vegas.
Oh, no, it's the world. Yeah, no, there's no question. Yeah. There's no question. I have to ask you, Mr. Attorney General, if I may, because we got some time constraints here. I apologize. I wanted to ask you a little bit about some of these protests. These people right to protest. We had a protest here on the Las Vegas Strip a few days ago, talking about Steve Sisolak, 10 or more people that obviously some are against. Do you think these states overreacted? And what do you think about these nationwide protests? Some more than others, but what do you make of these protests?
Well, generally speaking, I think that the protests are ill-advised. Because they're gatherings of large numbers of people during the pandemic.
Exactly. Right. No, you're right. I agree. Yeah.
And I mean, there are better ways, like today, last time I did an interview, I was in your studio. And today we're doing it telephonically. Well, yesterday we used to protest in the streets. And maybe during a pandemic, there's a more intelligent way to do that. And I think there is. So I would say that the people that are out there standing in the streets in large groups protesting anything at this moment are idiots.
I tend to agree with you. Hey, what do you make of the people in Michigan? And they're talking about let's reopen the country. The people that are on strike or protesting. Yet many of them are wearing masks. You want to talk about idiot, Mr. Attorney General? What do you make of some of those people?
Here's the thing that we really need to think about. Okay, so first of all, I'm the chairman of Capriati. Okay, and we have 106 stores.
Well, wait a second. I have to cut you off and say the capastrami is one of my favorite sandwiches of all time. I just had to throw that in there.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We had to shut down. We had to close 106 stores. That hurt.
Wow.
Trust me, that hurt. We had to cut all of our executive compensation all throughout our company, not only executive compensation, but everyone's compensation by like 25%. We've had to make some dramatic changes. This hurts. Okay, it hurts me as much as it hurts anybody else, except that we're healthy. God, thank God. This is a tragedy, both in terms of health and in terms of business. I mean, I am extremely sympathetic to the business owners who are being decimated by this, and I hear very loudly and clearly their calls to reopen the economy. I understand it, and I want it as well. But we have to do this sensibly, and we also have to understand that simply opening up certain businesses, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution, and it's not like, there are parts of the country where you absolutely can reopen for business without, real fear of adverse consequences of any significance because they're not dense populations, or they're practicing social distancing, and they're smart, and they're doing what they need to do, and they're practicing good hygiene. And if everybody's doing what they're supposed to do, it gives you greater flexibility to open up. But if you're in a dense environment like New York, if you're walking down Madison Avenue, or you're walking down many of the boulevards in New York, you can't stand 6 feet apart from someone, even if you wanted to.
That's a good point.
In Wyoming, you can.
Right. No, there's no question. You bring up a really good point there that there's a lot of different proximity depending on where you live, depending on where you are. But you're absolutely right. Sometimes you cannot practice social distancing. You're put in a very peculiar situation. There's no question. Well, listen, Mr. Attorney General George Chanos, always a pleasure to have you on the show, and we appreciate your expertise. And the fact that you take both sides, both the Republicans and the Democrats, and then form your own decision, I have to say, sir, it's a breath of fresh air. And I appreciate you answering all of these questions honestly. And you're a smart guy, and we hope that you and your family stay safe during these difficult times. I wish you still were our Attorney General, quite frankly. Not a cheap shot against anybody now, but you did a great job.
Or Capriati's.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Capriati's, too. Boy, they make some great sandwiches over there. George, thank you.
Hey, listen.
Yeah.
Listen, by the way, I want you to know that that because we're pivoting and adapting and being smart about what we're doing at Capriati's, we're down, but we're down less than half of what the national average is for a quick service restaurant.
And you know why that is? You know why that is? Because it does. I'm sorry to interrupt, but you know what? I was just going to say your food is fantastic there at Capriati's. A lot of people are getting to-go orders, and I think that's a big part of it. And it's a good product. And unfortunately, we're up against a hard break, George. I hate to cut you off here, but I just want to say thank you again for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate you, and look forward to having you on again soon. Okay?
Yes. Can I tell you one last thing? I know you're
about 20 seconds. Go ahead. Yep.
Okay. Tell your listeners that I'm giving them a gift. It's a free download of a 440-page book called Millennial Samurai. It's a free, 100% free download. Go to millennialsamurai.com and download the book. Read it. Read it for your family. Read it for your business. Read it for yourself. It's important. It's got a lot of good information. It will help you during this crisis. It's my gift to. I'm giving away a million free digital downloads. MillennialSamurai.com.
That's very generous of you. And what better time now? A lot of us have extra time on our hands to read. So you know what? I'm going to do that myself today. Mr. Attorney General, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. That is former Nevada Attorney General George Chanos. Very intelligent, also very long-winded, I've noticed.
Extremely long-winded.
But very smart guy.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, but I've read some of his book, The Millennial Samurai, and automation really is his passion. And,
right, which is why I asked that question.
Yes, and that's
Yep, no question.
Very fascinating.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll take your calls at 702-257-5396. You're not going to believe what Steve Mnuchin said. It is so idiotic and repugnant. We're going to play that for you. Steve Mnuchin on national television, what he said about these $1,200 checks that people are getting, and we'll take more of your calls on the other side. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON. 25 minutes. I think I got 3 questions. You got one, and I got one.
Special report, coronavirus update. President Trump's approval rating for his handling of the pandemic has declined slightly to 45%. Correspondent Caitlin Collins reports in the White House.
What you're seeing is the president repeatedly put this back on states, not saying it's like a teamwork type thing like what you're hearing from Dr. Birx. And the thing is, this comes after the president is hearing this concern, not just from his critics, not just from Democrats, but also from his closest allies, like Lindsey Graham and other senators on a call yesterday, business executives the day before.
Illinois, Michigan, and 5 other Midwestern states are teaming up to help get their economies moving again. Correspondent Omar Jimenez is in Chicago.
This is a form of regional solidarity that is not just playing out in the Midwest. It's playing out across 7 states in the Northeast, and then California, Oregon, and Washington on the West Coast.
On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average up 448 points, the S&P 500 gaining 49. I'm Ann Cates.
It's time to check the roads from the Letterman Road Traffic Studio.
This report sponsored by Liberty Mutual Insurance, where you only pay for what you need. Watch for slowing for the crash reported on the 215 Northern Beltway eastbound at Jones Boulevard, and then slowing eastbound from Losee to I-15 for ongoing road work. Also a crash reported Grand Canyon Drive south of Russell Road. Avoid delays, take an alternate like Wallapai or Fort Apache instead. Nobody should have to pay for one-size-fits-all insurance coverage. Liberty Mutual customizes your coverage so you only pay for what you need. I'm John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
As a woman and a mom, sometimes you just have to take a stand. Take Dan Rodheimer, who's running for Congress. You kidding me? Rodheimer's violent criminal record is an immediate disqualifier. Rodheimer has been arrested for violent assaults 3 times. In one case, Rodheimer admitted guilt to battery. Another Rodheimer attack was so horrific, his victim had intracranial bleeding. A witness at one attack told police Rodheimer bragged he'd like to hurt people. And an arrest warrant described Rodheimer as armed or dangerous. But there's more. A police report detailed Rodheimer's harassment of a teenage girl, while another exposed Rodheimer was investigated for a domestic incident. It's bad enough Rodheimer was sued for forgery, fraud, and for not paying his taxes. But violent assaults and harassing women? That's unforgivable. Paid for and authorized by Friends of Dan Schwartz.
I'm Dan Schwartz, candidate for Congress, and I approve this message.
Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. Whether you enjoy classical, rock, or heavy metal, we all march to the beat of our own drummer or guitarist. That's why Views also offers you more ways to vape your way. It's available in 5 bold color options, 3 smooth tastes, and 3 nicotine levels. It's your vape, your way. Views, charge beyond. Underage sale prohibited.
In the front, we'll take out that tree, install a new fence.
You're gonna call 811, right?
Isn't that just for excavators?
No, dude. Calling 811 is for excavators, homeowners, contractors, anyone. Natural gas lines and other utilities can be buried anywhere. Call 811 2 working days before any digging project to get all underground lines marked for free.
Thanks, deep-voiced narrator.
You're welcome, dude. Brought to you by Southwest Gas.
101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON, the talk of Las Vegas. Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us on a Friday. By the way, coming up in hour number 3, Dina Titus, Congresswoman here in Nevada, will be joining us here in just a little bit. You know, you remember Steve Mnuchin's wife
Remember, she gets off that airplane and there's a picture and she's bragging about her purse and her dress and her shoes and her makeup and her hair. I mean, that woman is so disgusting for what she did. So many people out here are struggling, and that made worldwide news because it was so embarrassing on her part to do something like that. I mean, I'm sure she married Mnuchin because of his great looks. I'm sure it had nothing to do with the money that he has. But, I've never been a big Steve Mnuchin fan, another Donald Trump enabler, but that's here nor there right now. I want you to hear from Steve Mnuchin's mouth himself, the Treasury Secretary, suggesting that these $1,200 stimulus checks should provide 10 weeks of relief for families. Have a listen to this.
Be these checks in the mail or direct deposit. It's really bridge liquidity for people as they go through these difficult times.
Bridge liquidity for about 8 weeks?
Well, I think the entire package provides economic relief overall for about 10 weeks.
Are you effing kidding me? A family, you know what that breaks down to, these checks? 10 weeks? $17 a day. Find me a family with a father and a mother and kids that can live off of $17 a day when we're assuming that they're not receiving any other benefits and they have to pay rent and put food on the table. Are you kidding me? This guy is so out of touch. This is the Treasury Secretary talking like that. It's not Donald Trump. That'd be alarming enough. It's not somebody on the street. It's not a mayor. It's the Treasury Secretary.
Yeah, I think he's factoring in when including the unemployment checks.
He didn't say that, so I'm not going to assume that he was factoring that in.
Obviously, $17 a day, if you have rent and any expense whatsoever, is not going to cut it, Brian.
Okay. Yeah.
So you have to just reasonably assume.
I'm not going to do that.
That he is factoring in some type of other benefit.
He didn't say that
outside of just $1,200 for 10 weeks.
I'm not. I refuse to do that. You know why?
You don't have to.
Because he didn't
By the
say
way,
it.
the first state just opened up. Alabama will be opening up on May.
What a shocker! The dopes in Alabama. What a shocker!
See, there's no reason
the dopes in Alabama. Who, by the way,
you love to use that word dope.
Hold on, I'll tell you why. Because
I'll tell you what.
The people,
there are a lot of people in Alabama, Brian, that are not dopes. There are some that are, but you like to label the entire state.
Well,
you like to have a couple people.
If I could explain
label
why.
the entire state.
If I could explain why, it was very recently that many of the politicians on the right in Alabama were the ones that wanted to send women to jail if they went to another state to get an abortion. It was those people in Alabama very recently, thank God the bill didn't pass, that wanted to ban abortion altogether. It is those good people in Alabama that did that. So yes, I think many of the politicians in Alabama are dopes and have very low IQs. I stand by that statement. But going back to Steve Mnuchin, he didn't bring up unemployment benefits. He didn't bring up anything else. So like when Trump says something dumb and Republicans want to say, well, here's what I think he meant, I refuse to do that. I can only go by what they say. And when Mnuchin made this TV appearance, he didn't mention any other money. He's the Treasury Secretary. He didn't mention unemployment. He didn't mention welfare, food stamp, nothing. He didn't mention anything else. He's specifically talking about these stimulus checks. And out of his mouth, he said a $1,200 stimulus check would provide 10 weeks of relief to families. And this is the idiot that is a policymaker in this country. And yes, I would put him along the same lines as many of those that live in Alabama, because I think Mnuchin is a dope, and I think his wife is a disgusting human being.
I can tell you, Mnuchin's extremely intelligent. He is
he sounded very intelligent in that
He is
sound.
very, very smart. He is very, very accomplished. He is very, very educated, Brian.
He sounded very educated in that interview.
I'm not saying he sounded educated in that interview.
All right, I'm just going by that. I'm talking about that.
You have to factor in everything else that's going on.
His wife seems very intelligent also.
Okay,
702-257-5396 is the number to call. What do you guys think about this? What do you think of our Treasury Secretary? JD thinks he's an extremely intelligent guy. I'm not going to go that far, but that's fine. Suggesting that a $1,200 stimulus check would provide 10 weeks of relief to families. That's around $17 a day. Is that an intelligent thing to say? I think not. Let's take some phone calls. Again, 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to James. James, you're up on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, James?
Hey, guys. Hello. I've been listening to this.
James, are you there?
Yeah,
We're having trouble hearing you, my friend.
Can't hear you, man.
Can you hear me okay?
Now you're good. Go ahead, James.
Okay. A couple of quick comments. I'm a recovering addict myself, and they set up, for want of a better term, a conference caller. So that's something that people can look into if need be. And my other issue I'm having is I work for Labour, And even though our work has been cut by 50%, they're not laying us off. And I'm finding it hard to get an answer through unemployment.
So you're saying they're not. So James, if I could just interject here real quickly. So the first comment you made was, you're a recovering addict, and you're saying you can talk to people, and it doesn't have to be in-person meetings, but you're doing it virtually. But by the way, I think that's a great idea. Number one, and number two, you're saying they refuse to lay you off, and because of that, you're not able to. You're having more problems collecting unemployment. So the employer is actually saving money by not laying you off. Is that what you're saying?
Because it's a day late, they come around with that.
Yeah, I hear you, James. I apologize. Your phone is difficult to hear. I didn't want to cut you off there, James. I wanted to hear more of your story. You're welcome to call back later if you could get a better phone line.
Maybe he's got trouble paying his phone bill.
Maybe that's possible. James, I'm sorry. James, I'm sorry you're going through the troubles you're going through. I really am, sir. And, feel free to call back if we can get you on a better phone line. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Ed. Ed, you're next up on the Vegas Take.
Hey, what's up, Ed?
Did we lose Ed? I believe Ed is gone. Again, that number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation is 702-257.
Ed's back. Ed's on.
Okay, Ed, go ahead. I believe we got you back. We're having some issues with the phone lines today. I apologize. Go ahead, Ed.
It's $1,200 a person and $500 a child, so it'd be $3,400 for a family of four. But I just had a down the street neighbor have a heart attack because he couldn't get into his wellness visit. So all the people that can't get into the doctor or dentist, I mean, they're going to die of cancer and heart disease and that sort of thing. So that's billions of people. So the people that are responsible for the shutdown are murderers that have killed millions of people because of heart disease and cancer.
Okay. If I could just respond to that, what does that have to do with the? I'm sorry, I'm confused. What does that have to do with the coronavirus?
Because you keep saying that we're saving lives by keeping everybody at home, and he's making an example of someone whose life was not saved because they couldn't get to their wellness visit and had a heart attack at home. And a lot of that's happening in New York City. A lot of that's happening all over the country.
So you're telling me that you know somebody, the guy we have with us on the line right now, that had heart issues and he couldn't see a doctor? Is that what you're saying? Thank you very much for that response.
That's exactly what he's saying.
702, maybe he just had cardiac arrest and he couldn't go see his doctor.
That's a great joke.
702
good joke, Brian.
702.
Make another one, please.
Okay, I will if you'd like me to. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. I would have liked to have gotten a response from him. Next caller is Alan. Alan, you're next up in the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, Alan?
Alan, you are next up in the Vegas Take. What's going on? All right, we think we lost Alan. We're going to take a quick break and be back right after this. You're listening to the Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.
I was 9 when I lost my leg to bone cancer. I had a 50% chance to live. After chemotherapy treatments at my children's hospital and the amputation, I had beaten the odds. But would I ever be as active as I once was? Fast forward 20 years. I've competed in the Paralympics and now play on the U.S. amputee soccer team. Help kids live their dreams just like me. Put your money where the miracles are. Give to your Children's Miracle Network Hospital.
Sean, are you there? Sean,
I have a chocolate cocker spaniel named Lady and a blackmouth cur, and it's a lot of responsibility owning a dog. My dogs don't have any health problems because they're eating what they need to eat.
DINOVITE.com.
Dynavite is like.
Fuck this. Jason, you there? Yo.
Yeah.
Check.
What's going on?
Oh, I got you, man. You guys are cutting in and out. So.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Like 3 of the 4 callers were not there when we went to.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell's going on, but we should be good now. You guys got 2 more minutes. You need me to add anything?
Well, I mean, I could try to reboot here.
Cable news channel. Everyone.
No, I don't think we need to. The callers are good now. Looks like some of them are just dropping off. So,
Cox.
I mean, it's up to you. I don't think we need to, but it's your call, man.
Well,
conducting a national
okay,
poll
so you don't
asking
think the
Americans
calls have
if they
anything to
support
do
President
with
Trump during this crisis.
our connection?
It's easy to vote.
No, I honestly think that it's more the callers just dropping off than you guys having a bad connection because it's only happened once for like 20 seconds.
Okay.
And Trump send vote.
If people have been holding, if people have been holding a while, just make sure they're still there. I guess
today.
if you can.
Exactly. Hey, we've got 30 seconds. You want to come in 30? You want me to add time?
No, we'll come back in 30.
You got it, man. All right, 15 seconds. Let's go.
Okay.
Ask if anybody noticed you mowed the lawn. Tell people to stay off the lawn. Compare it to your neighbor's lawn. And complain about having to mow the lawn again. Good news is, it's easy to bundle home and auto through Progressive and save on your car insurance, which, of course, will go right into the lawn. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Discount not available in all states or situations.
1015 FM, 720 AM. KDON, the talk of Las Vegas. Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 1015 FM, 720 AM. KDON.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us on a Friday. Having a little technical issues with the phone lines. You know, this is what happens when you're not allowed to do a radio show in a studio. We've been doing this for like a month, literally from my kitchen table, for obvious reasons, because of the coronavirus. But as I mentioned, when you're doing a live show and you're not in a radio studio, you're going to have technical issues from time to time. These things happen. But for all of you that are waiting patiently on hold, we're going to get right back to you. Let me just reset everything for you. Talking about Steve Mnuchin. We're talking about this $1,200 stimulus check, and he for over the course of 10 weeks, and he thinks that's enough. 10 weeks to relieve families. That would be $17 a day. And we're taking your phone calls, as I mentioned, at 257-5396. Let's go to John. Let's try this again. John, thanks for waiting patiently on hold. What's going on, man?
Hey, man. I think Steve Mnuchin's a clown. But I think there's a very large, huge money grab going on right now in D.C., and that's the way you do it, is you give the peasants $1,200 and then you grab billions, hundreds of billions on the backside. The New York Post, you know, a rag owned by one of the great evil men of our time, Rupert Murdoch, just published an article yesterday, like 43,000 families are getting like $1.6 million. So I think Steve Mnuchin's a clown, and I think when all's said and done, we're going to find out that we, you know, pissed away $3, $4, $5 trillion in this with this problem.
I don't disagree with you. Doesn't it always work out the same way, John, where as you said, peasants, and I hate to use that term, but you're probably right. Those that are not making a lot of money and those that are struggling are the ones that are going to suffer the most, while big business are the ones that are going to be bailed out. I mean, it seems like we've seen this story
before. That's not a bailout,
before.
Brian. That's not a bailout.
We've seen this story before.
You cannot call this a bailout. The economy was not fundamentally flawed.
Okay, here's why I call it a bailout.
The one industry that you could say possibly was bailed out was the airline.
That's what I was going to talk about.
Because they spent so much money that anytime they got money from the government, they put it back in their own company.
Well, here's why I call it that.
Themselves liquid to be able to, but everybody else, this was like 7 or 8 hurricanes, and we had an economist come on our show. He said this was like 7 or 8 hurricanes hitting all over the country at once.
Here's why I say
this
that.
is not a bailout for these businesses.
Well, here's why I disagree with you. Many of the big businesses, besides the airlines, they're getting these huge loans. Okay, eventually they're going to have to pay it back. But this package that was $350 billion of small business is done. It's gone. And there are many of these small businesses.
And do you know why that is?
If I could just finish. There are many of these small businesses that now are filled out their forms. They haven't heard anything back, and they're struggling. While these huge corporations and huge companies already got their loans, and they're going to be just fine. Eventually, they're going to have to pay them back. I have a huge problem with that, and to me, that is like a bailout because the small businesses are struggling, and the large corporations are going to be just fine.
That's because they have massive, massive overhead, Brian. But do you know why the PPP hasn't been extended? The answer literally is Nancy Pelosi.
That's not the only
Yes,
reason.
it is.
No,
Yeah,
it's not.
it actually is.
And why do you think she was opposed to
I know
it?
for a fact because she thinks that there's not enough money going to hospitals, even though they got paid huge money in the stimulus bill, in the CARES Act. Not enough money going to minorities and not enough money going to minority and women-owned businesses because they don't have the relationship.
Well, she's right. I agree with her 150%.
So that means we should cut off the entire program?
She doesn't want to cut off the entire
Yes,
program.
she does,
wants
Brian.
to add, no,
yes, she does.
You're not factually accurate. She wants to add on to the program.
No, she doesn't. She wants the program. The deal has been put on the table.
I will
and
show you.
She wants the deal to change towards her favor. Otherwise, she is going to let all these small businesses. And do you know how hard it is to be a small business owner, Brian? You talk about being depressed. You talk about having a small business, having that business go under after working your ass off for 10 or 15 years to build a brand, and suddenly, due to no fault of your own, that business goes under. Do you know how psychologically damaging that can be to somebody?
Well, you're making the case for me. It's the big businesses that are not struggling, and it's the small businesses that are struggling. That was my point.
I'm saying there's a lot of entrepreneurs across the country that if their businesses go down, they don't have college degrees to back on. They don't have to fall back on. They don't have other things that they're doing. They literally are impoverished at that point. Everything they worked for decades, in some cases, is gone. Is gone for nothing. And so that's why this $250 billion is so important. This extension of the PPP is so important, and Nancy Pelosi needs to pass it.
Okay. I mean, I completely disagree with you. It's not just Nancy Pelosi, but let's get back
Brian,
to the phone calls.
I promise you, it is Nancy
Okay.
Pelosi.
Okay, I get your opinion. I just completely disagree with you. Let's get back to the phone calls. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Andre. Andre, you're next on the Vegas Take.
Hey, what's up, Andre?
What up, JD? What up, Brian? Hey, of course it's Nancy Pelosi. Ain't no question about it. But, you know, it's easy for Brian to say he disagrees. So what? You disagree. The fact of the fact is that it is Nancy Pelosi. But it's typical Democratic playbook. Just like JD, I don't know if you remember the tweet that Dianne Feinstein put out from California, who's been there over 40 years, a career politician. She put out a tweet where she was telling Donald Trump to basically send Iran more money so they could combat their crisis of corona, the virus.
Yeah, that was crazy. And then at the same time, California just gave $125 million to undocumented immigrants in their city. They just gave them $500 each.
More
I can't hear you, Andre. I'm sorry. What'd you say?
More concerned with the Iranian people than the American people.
Okay.
What they're going
Andre,
through
do you
right now.
blame? All right, fair enough. Andre, do you blame Democrats for the coronavirus?
I don't blame anybody. I think you know who I blame. I blame where the blame should be put at. I think it's China. I don't think this is accidental. I think it was on purpose.
Okay, that's okay. Okay, well, I agree with you on that one. But if I could just finish and talk to the caller, what do you think about Sisolak? Do you think Sisolak did the right thing by closing down the strip, or would you like to criticize him also?
I think things needed to be shut down as a precautionary caution. I think it's common sense, right? There's no need to blame Sisolak for that. Now, what we will blame him for is the amount of time that he does extend this for.
I agree.
Because at the same token, just like you were holding Trump accountable for his reaction to the crisis, we're going to hold Sisolak.
And what has he done wrong? And what has he done wrong? And what has he done wrong? Criticize. What has he done wrong?
Except for that medication that he is banning for the most
part. He didn't ban it. You're 100%. Excuse me. You're 100% wrong. He didn't ban it. Doctors are allowed to prescribe the medication. That's a right-wing talking point.
He's whoring it. How about that?
No, he's not. You're absolutely wrong. He is allowing doctors to prescribe, and you are ill-informed because you're watching Fox News. You are ill-informed, sir.
Of course.
No, not of course. You just said something that is not factually accurate.
You're the most informed and more.
Really? Name me one. Okay, so name me one thing. Okay, let's go with that. Name me one thing that I've said in this show that is not factually accurate. Go.
I don't know. I haven't listened to you.
Yeah, exactly. Then get lost. Exactly. Then get lost. Get lost. Yeah, get lost. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Very good call.
Bye bye.
And actually, I will say this: he has not banned it. Hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin is being. It's the first line for anyone who goes to the hospital for COVID in Nevada right now.
I want to just go by.
With a lot of hospitals. You say, no, that's true, Brian.
Well, because I don't want to get another debate with you on these drugs.
I'm
think it's ridiculous.
not getting a debate with you. I'm just telling you that's cool. Well, just because you don't want to means I can't.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. All right.
Go
well,
ahead.
I'm just saying.
Go ahead.
He is not banned it. So Andre I was actually agreeing with you, but you're so defensive that once I open my mouth, you assume that I'm attacking you.
Well, you get one caller that disagrees with you, and you want me to hang up on them immediately. I get 30 of them, and I want a chance to respond to him. He just called up and just attacked me and basically said, I get everything wrong, and I'm unfactual and ill-informed. And I say to the caller, name me one thing that I've said in this show that is not factually accurate, and his idiotic, ignorant response is, well, I can't think of one. I'm sorry, that's why I'm fired up, JD. When people call into the show and they want to call me names or they want to say I'm not factual, and I ask them a very fair and specific question, and they can't answer it, they're idiots. They're ignorant. And that's why I'm fired up right now. I'm addressing that last caller who, once again, another idiot who calls in who wants to, call me a Democrat, which I'm not, wants to say I'm ill-informed, which I'm not, and I give him an opportunity. I don't hang up on him. I give him an opportunity to give me something I said that would lead him to believe that I'm ill-informed, not factually accurate. And his dumb response is, oh, I don't know, I haven't listened in a long time. Good. Great answer, buddy. You sound like a really smart guy. Great answer. 702, that's why I'm fired up. 702-257-5396.
That and you have no weekend plans.
Well, that's also a part of it. You're right.
He's got a Sunday plan.
You're right. I'm fired up today. I'm getting pissed off with this coronavirus stuff. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Fernando, you're next on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, Fernando?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Doing great.
If you guys get a chance, read a book called Eyes of the Darkness by Dean Koontz, the famous writer Dean Koontz. And he wrote in 1981 that China and their labs were developing a virus back then, and they said they would release it in 2020. It's called Wuhan 400.
A work of fiction.
And if you guys get a chance, take a look at that, okay?
Oh, I'll do it. Fernando, how you holding up in all this nonsense? How are you doing?
I'm holding up okay. I'm over here in Ghost Town, Sun City, Summerlin.
Yeah.
And it's more quieter than ever. You can hear all the animals. You can hear the squirrels and the crickets and everything. But
I hear the animals too in my complex. It's usually people having sex, but I'm willing to get through it. Fernando, keep yourself safe, my friend. Okay, stay safe. All right.
I think you guys be safe.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you.
a lot, Fernando.
Thank you, Fernando. And we'll check out that book. Now I got 2 books I got to read. It's like a homework assignment.
But Dean Koontz writes fiction, though.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But he's just saying it's interesting.
He just got lucky, and we can. And
His books are very-
I can get into the whole China situation. We haven't talked about it at all.
We will.
Well,
we have
his
a new
books-
segment we're debuting.
I
we
will
are.
talk about
We
that
are.
a little bit.
By the way, his books are very similar to Donald Trump's press conferences. They're all fiction. 702-257-5396, the number to call. You're going to have your chance, JD. We have a very fun segment coming up. It's called The China Report with JD Sharp.
The China Report,
yeah,
huh?
Yeah. You're going to have your moment to shine. Don't worry.
Okay. No, I'm just regardless.
Am I a little crazy today?
I actually wouldn't. You are a bit out of control today.
I'm unglued.
Yeah.
I'm a little
Yeah,
I'm glued. I like that.
a little off the rails.
Well, I apologize.
Honestly, your chest is not even salmon today, which is odd. So there's something
that
wrong.
That wasn't very nice, but I guess I deserve that.
No, I'm serious.
The chest is changing colors like a
It
moon
is.
ring.
702-257-5396. Let's go to Mike. Mike, I get fired up when people call in and then they can't come up with
I
one
like it.
example, man.
I'm with
What do you want me to do? Let's go to Mike. Mike, you're next up on the Vegas take.
Hey, what's up, Mike?
All right, gentlemen, how you doing? I'm just first admit this is the second day ever hearing you guys. You guys are quite comical. But let me tell you something about myself. First of all, 18 years on the farm taught me accountability. 6 years in the United States Navy.
Thank you for your service, sir. We appreciate you.
18 for a lifetime with God taught me to be trustworthy. I'm a small business owner. I have 12 employees, just hired 2 more. I am in construction. I'm still up and running. I learned value as a young adult. I saved my money up for rainy days. My business, if I had to shut it down, I would still pay my employees for 2 years. Here's the next thing. Everybody does not have to receive $1,200. They should have went on unemployment. I'm still working. I don't need $1,200. I'm donating that
Mike,
to
can I
some
add
of the
something?
families I know that need it. No,
Mike.
let me finish. Your math is also wrong, son, because
Okay, well, I'm not your son. I'm not your son, and you don't tell me when I can't talk. And I was gladly going to keep you on the line, but if you're not going to allow me to respond to the things you said,
Obviously, he's not. He was in the middle of a very, very solid tangent.
Okay, well, we have other people on hold, and we have other people.
Mike,
we need to
I
get
really
to.
appreciated your
And
tangent.
what I was going to try to tell Mike, if he could.
I want to correct.
All right, well, if you can listen, Mike, instead of talking, you sound like the Attorney General. If you could actually, with all due respect, what I was going to say was, and I was going to actually compliment you, that not everybody in this country is as responsible as you are. Not everybody in this country can save money like you've saved. Not everybody has been good with their finances like you have been. So while I'm glad to hear from people like you that are successful, that have hired people, and that have enough money to pay others, some people are not smart enough to do that, and others are just selfish, like Tillman Fertitta, who laid off a bunch of his own workers. He's worth billions of dollars. He's not continuing to pay them. That is what I was trying to compliment you, sir. That's what I was trying to do. All right, do we have time for a few more calls?
Yeah, thanks for the call, Mike.
702-257-5396, the number to call. Let's go to Anthony real quick. Anthony, I got about 1 minute for you, my friend. Go.
Hey, what's up, Anthony?
Hey guys, how you doing? I think
Doing
watching
well.
all this happen now, although I guess I'm a liberal, but watching this happen makes me really appreciate George W. Bush and how he had a foresight. H1N1 happened in 2007. He was able to call in then candidate Barack Obama, who put a plan together, and after 60 million people were infected, we had 12,000 die, but we had a plan together, and then that plan led to Ebola, right? Our plan was together with Ebola. We only lost 2 people. I think that now, I'm hoping that Trump gets his act together. I think he's getting together now. So I think that we can get through this as a country. I get out of business. I specialize in infectious disease. Please, everyone, please, your immune system is the only fight for this right now. It's a disease with no cure, no treatment. So because there's no treatment and no cure, your immune system is the best way to fight this disease right now. Please strengthen your immune system. Every Nevada. That's the only defense we have right now.
Anthony, that's great advice.
Yep.
That's great
Which
advice.
means
Anthony.
do not be at home drinking alcohol every single day.
Well, that's
because
probably not a good idea.
No, a lot of people are doing that right now, Brian. Alcohol sales are up 28% across the entire country. What do you think that number is here in Nevada, where you have 400,000 people unemployed?
I have no idea, I have no idea. But what I will say is that Anthony's right. Our immune system is the best way we can fight this, besides being in quarantine and taking the proper steps, obviously. And Anthony makes a very good point. Anthony, we're glad you're doing well. Please stay safe, my friend. And we have a very interesting and informative guest coming up next, and we always love it when she comes
thanks
on.
for calling, Anthony.
We have Congresswoman Dina Titus, Nevada Congresswoman, coming up next. I'm going to ask her, what are her thoughts on the difference of opinion between the mayor of Las Vegas and the governor, Steve Sisolak? We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
Your home for Sean Hannity, KDWN Las Vegas, KKLZ HD2 Las Vegas, a Beasley Media Group station.
Coronavirus. Governor Andrew Cuomo says the state is still dealing with thousands of infected patients.
Number of new cases that walked in the door, COVID cases, walked in the door of a hospital, is still about 2,000 per day. And that is still very high. So that, yes, fewer people in the hospital, fewer people being intubated, but still 2,000 people walking in the door. And if you notice, it's hovered about the same rate for several weeks.
In Washington, D.C., Mayor Muriel Bowser says schools remain closed.
For D.C. public schools and for our public charter schools in Washington, D.C., distance learning at home will continue throughout the 2019-2020 school year.
On Wall Street, the Dow gaining 420. I'm Ann Cates. Some key House Democrats are calling on Congress to help states conduct mail-in voting.
The Democratic chairs of several House committees say Congress should send $4 billion to states so they can take the steps necessary to conduct safe mail-in voting during the coronavirus pandemic. The coronavirus stimulus package signed into law by President Trump last month included $400 million to assist states conducting elections during the COVID-19 crisis. That's far lower than the $4 billion proposed in the House version of the bill. While Democrats have largely supported mail-in voting, many Republicans, including the president, have not. They've cited concerns about voter fraud and the possibility that it could hurt Republican election chances. Linda Kenyon, Washington.
The number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in the U.S. has topped 672,000, and the death toll is approaching 34,000. Globally, there have been close to 2.2 million coronavirus cases since the pandemic began in China. I'm Ann Cates.
It's time to check the roads.
From the Leatherman Road Traffic Studio.
This report sponsored by Liberty Mutual Insurance, where you only pay for what you need. Watch for slowing for a crash. Injury sustained reported at Pavilion Center Drive at Greenmore Lane. Also, police conducting a hit-and-run accident investigation on Rainbow, northbound north of Lake Mead Boulevard. Not blocking, but watch for police presence in the area. And no delays to report. I-15 north and southbound between the Spaghetti Bowl and the Southern Beltway. Nobody should have to pay for one-size-fits-all insurance coverage. Liberty Mutual customizes your coverage so you only pay for what you need. I'm John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
Attention oxygen users. Are you on oxygen therapy and still using tanks? Life is hard enough struggling to breathe. Don't waste your breath on dealing with bulky, dangerous tanks.
Call 800-771-5974 now.
And try the Inogen 1 G4 oxygen concentrator risk-free for 30 days. Tanks are a hassle. They hamper mobility and are difficult to transport, not to mention risky. The Inogen 1 G4 oxygen concentrator is compact and makes its own oxygen, making your life easier. If you call right now, we'll send you a free information kit that outlines all the benefits. Plus, you can get a 30-day risk-free trial to see for yourself. But don't wait. This exclusive radio offer won't last. Call for your free information kit on the Inogen 1 G4 oxygen concentrator. Ditch the hassles of tanks and experience the freedom of living a mobile life again.
Call 800-771-5974. That's 800-771-5974. 800-771-5974.
It's open enrollment season, and Medishare is the Christian healthcare sharing ministry that saves most families about $500 a month. Google Medishare and see if it's a fit for you. Medishare, healthcare you can believe in.
101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON, the talk of Las Vegas. The opinions of the hosts on KDWN are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or Beasley Media Group.
Hello, everyone. This is President Trump, the greatest president in the history of presidents. And the only show I listen to is the top-rated show, Sharp and Shapiro. They are the best.
Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro on a Friday. Glad you could join us. I would imagine many of us don't have any big plans this weekend, as we're all dealing with the same in this coronavirus pandemic. Always like hearing from politicians throughout. You know, we had George Chanos on, the former Nevada Attorney General, and always love having Nevada Congresswoman Dina Titus, who joins us right now on the line. Congresswoman Titus, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Well, I'm fine, thank you. I didn't realize Donald Trump was a big fan of your show, so I just heard that.
Apparently he is, yeah. Apparently he is. That would be a shock to me, too, because I criticize him every single day, Dina. But
I better be more careful about the things I say.
No, you don't need to be careful on this show at all, Congresswoman. I want to ask you this first question because I think it's an important one. You know, we had Oscar Goodman on the show yesterday, and as you know, Carolyn Goodman, the mayor of Las Vegas, is not necessarily seeing eye to eye with Governor Steve Sisolak. And she's had some choice words about his decisions to shut down the Strip. And I wanted to ask you about that because, you know, when you hear of the governor, saying one thing, and by the way, I commend Governor Sisolak. I think he's done a good job. That's just my opinion. And then you hear Mayor Goodman saying something completely different. It gets people confused. I think it's dangerous. It gets people angry. What do you make of that, of Mayor Goodman's comments and the differences that she and Steve Sisolak have?
Well, it is unfortunate, and you're right. It's the information that's contradictory that causes people to be scared and angry, and that's one of my criticisms of the Trump administration. From day to day, they keep switching their position. Here at home, the governor had to make a very tough decision when he closed down the economy. He did not come by that lightly. I think it was through a lot of advice from the scientific community, the healthcare community, and a lot of prayers. You know, he's a very religious man. He goes to Mass every morning. So he didn't make that decision lightly. And, everybody is frustrated. You heard him. He was frustrated. But we've got to kind of put that aside and look at what's good in the long term. I believe that our economy is certainly hurting very bad now. If you go down the Strip, which is my district, and see things all shut down, it's like a Twilight Zone movie. Who could have ever imagined it?
Yeah.
But all the science say, if we do this now, if we sacrifice now, we'll get over this sooner and we'll be able to come back faster. And so I support the governor in what he's been doing.
As I do as well, and I tend to agree with you. What do you make, Dina, we get calls from people every day that think that everything should be reopened tomorrow. As you know, there have been people that have been protesting throughout the country, many of whom were in Michigan. There were people on the Las Vegas Strip the other day that don't agree with Steve Sisolak's, 10 or more, ban. Like I said, I agree with Steve Sisolak. I'm on his side on this one. What would you say to those people and some of your constituents that disagree with the governor? What would you say to them?
Well, I would say that, they're kind of falling into the Donald Trump trap. Let's get things open now because he's so worried about the state of the economy and his own reelection. He's not listening to the scientists standing right there on the stage with him. Dr. Fauci has certainly been much more conservative about opening up things and stopping the social distancing and the hand washing and all that. Everything's going to be okay. It's not going to be okay. So I think that when people do that, they're not only endangering themselves, but they're endangering their family, their friends, people on the street, and making it possible that you'll get another spike, more illness, more death, and it'll be even longer before the economy can come back.
You mentioned how there's a lot of economic damage that the economy is suffering in Nevada right now. Right now, there's roughly 300 to 400,000 people that have filed for unemployment that are considered unemployed. How high do you think that number gets, and do you think we hit 25-30% for unemployment in Las Vegas, or where do you think that number ends up, Dina?
Well, that's the figure that I've heard, that it could go as high as 30%. And put that in perspective, during the recession that we had about 8 or so years ago, Nevada was the worst in the country for unemployment, and that was about 15%. And so that's one of the reasons why in the last package, the CARES package that Congress passed, so much emphasis was put on providing unemployment. We extended the length of time you can get unemployment. We added $600 from the federal government to supplement your state unemployment. And we expanded the pool to also include the gig economy, independent contractors. You know, in Las Vegas, we have a lot of Uber drivers, entertainers who work on contract, new start companies that are high tech. And so now they can be included. And I think that unemployment is really kind of the long-term way to save people, because it keeps them going until things can open up. The state has just been overwhelmed by people applying. I think you said 300,000. They had more in just a couple of weeks than they had in the last 2 years combined. They have there was some money in the federal bill to hire more folks, get more resources. They have done that. I think they've tripled the size of the unemployment office. And now they've set up a system where it's better to apply on a certain day if you have a certain letter of the alphabet for your last name, and also online. We get hundreds of calls a day from people just asking for help, not knowing where to go, what they're entitled to, how to apply for it.
Congresswoman Dina Titus joining us, Nevada Congresswoman. Dina, I have to ask you some breaking news that is very disturbing to me. And I know this has nothing to do with Nevada, but it is still our country, and it could, in my opinion, this could put everybody's lives at risk. Apparently, DeSantis out there in Florida just decided to officially reopen the beaches. I am dumbfounded by this. What is your first reaction to this? I find it to be extremely irresponsible.
Well, so do I. He's a big Trump supporter. Remember that. And also, took him a long time to even close the beaches to start with. You found a lot of people who went for spring break who thought, well, I'm young and healthy, this won't bother me, coming back with the coronavirus and then giving it to their grandparents. You know, just because you open something up doesn't mean that people should go. That's like Las Vegas. We will open up gradually, but people have to feel in a holiday spirit and have money in their pocket. So we will be slower to get back up on our feet in some places. But I hope that the majority of people have enough sense not to go to the beach just because DeSantis says it's okay.
I hope you're right.
Okay, too.
Yeah, I know. I hope you're right, but you never know. There are people out there that are going to do what they're going to do, and I think it's very dangerous. I want to ask you a two-part question here. First of all, what do you think your constituents, the ones that are calling you, what do you think people need the most right now, and what do you think Congress can do to help them?
Well, the main things they're calling about are the unemployment. That's good for the longer term. So that helps with all the people who are out of a job, at least temporarily. Second, they're calling about the one-time payment check. That's $1,200 that you're entitled to if you make less than $75,000 a year. That's a one-time payment. We'd like to get some more in the next bill, but at least that's a little something that tides you over. And the third thing are small businesses who are calling about getting some of the federal, they call it a loan, but you don't have to pay it back, so it's really a grant if you use the money to pay payroll, mortgage, rent, or utilities. So many small businesses applied for that, and there are a lot of them here in Las Vegas that has run out of money. So even as we speak, we're trying to get some additional funds put into that program through another bill in Congress. And you think about my district, we've got the state's largest employer, MGM Grand, and the smallest employer, a taco truck. So small businesses really are ancillary supporters to those big casinos.
Right. Do you think that PPP, that Paycheck Protection Program, do you think the additional $250 billion, it's definitely necessary at this point? Do you think something gets done? Do you think that the two members of Congress come to an agreement and pass this bill eventually?
I think they will, and I think it'll be sooner rather than later. The argument is whether you just pass a bill to include more money for that program, or while you're at it, you include more money for things like food stamps and additional funding for people beyond the $1,200. But something will be done. They're negotiating that right now, and the president supports increasing the Paycheck Protection Program for small businesses. So this is something that will pass in one form or another pretty soon.
Well, Congresswoman,
and I had just yesterday a business call me saying they got all the paperwork in, they did all the right things, they're eligible. It's just the bank doesn't have any more money because there's been such a run on it. So many small businesses need it.
So you told us a couple times last time we talked, you said that you're riding with Biden. Who do you think that Joe Biden is going to nominate for his vice president?
Well, there are so many good choices out there. I don't have the inside scoop on that, but I know he is vetting a number of people. He has said that he'd like to have a woman, and so I'm pretty confident it'll be the first woman vice president running with him. There are a number of women who were running themselves who have now endorsed him, whether you're talking about Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, Amy Klobuchar. The governor of Michigan has been getting a lot of play. Stacey Abrams from Georgia, who ran for governor and lost because she felt like they had stolen a lot of the votes there or prevented people from voting. So it's an embarrassment of riches.
I have to go back to Donald Trump. I know you're about as big a fan of Donald Trump as I am, Congresswoman, so I have to ask you about some of his press conferences. I have criticized him almost on a daily basis for his briefings, and it appears to me that he wants to be congratulated for everything, and it's almost like a campaign rally for him, and he's talking about the ratings that he is receiving. Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, as you know, many people are struggling in this country, and they want to hear the news. Do you think it's dangerous for the media to play some of these press conferences? Because my take is I would rather hear from the doctors like a Dr. Fauci, even the vice president. I'd rather have him up there. And I just feel like President Trump is using this opportunity not to help the American people, but to help himself.
Well, that's right. You know, he can't do those big rallies that he enjoys so much because of the shutdown. So he's just trying to go out there and use these press conferences to, I think, play to his base. One day he'll say one thing like he did just the other day where he said the president has total power. I'm totally in charge. I will make the decision. Then some of his advisors told him, no, that's not what the Constitution says. You better back off of that. So his latest thing is, well, I'm going to allow the governors to make their own decision. You just can't trust them. It's just, and that just fuels problems. He doesn't listen to the scientists. He uses those to criticize Democrats, to throw out their fake numbers about what a great job he's doing. It's half of it's not true, and the other half is dangerous because it's causing people to, I think, do the wrong thing.
No, I agree.
Meantime, I believe Joe Biden is looking very presidential. He is hunkered down, following the scientific rules at home like everybody else, and talking about real plans to help us get out of this, not making up stuff like Trump is.
Yeah, no, I heard Joe Biden on CNN Town Hall yesterday, and I actually did think he did a great job, and he sounded presidential yesterday. I have to ask you one more big loaded question here in regards. Well, it'll be a tough question for you to answer. I don't think anybody has the answer to it, but you hear all these rumors, right, Congresswoman? When's the Strip going to open? Are they going to open the local casinos first? Are they going to keep the Strip closed for 3 or 4 months? Can you see a scenario where Governor Sisolak, and I know I'm not big into hypotheticals, I'm sure you're not either, but can you see a scenario where in 3 or 4 months from now, the Strip might still be closed, but yet local casinos could be open and these local businesses could be open? Or do you see that not being a possibility and it's going to be all or nothing? What do you know about that?
Well, I get briefed by the governor and his team at least once a week. I've got a briefing this afternoon by the Convention Authority to hear kind of what they're saying. I don't believe anybody wants to set a date because once you do, then you're bound to that, or else you just have to ignore it, like Donald Trump did the Easter date.
Right.
I believe that the science will dictate when we open up, and I think you kind of hit on it. It wouldn't surprise me to see a kind of a gradual opening, and it might not be the locals versus the Strip. It might be MGM opens one property instead of all of its properties, or Wynn opens one, something like that. I think they're working on how we're going to reopen, and nobody's really said what that's going to be. Anytime the economy is hit hard, Las Vegas is hit the hardest because, as I said before, people need to get money in their pocket to come on holiday, so there's a little lag time. But that's one of the reasons that as the chair of both the Gaming Caucus and the Travel and Tourism Caucus, we made sure that gaming was not excluded from the recovery bill like it's been done in the past, like after Katrina.
Sure. Now, you know 99.9% more than the general population, so I have to ask you one more question. You're in these briefings. What do you think the chances are? I mean, I've said I don't think we're going to open up May 1st, but since you're in these briefings, and I know you said you have another one this afternoon, is there any chance that we reopen May 1st? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think so. I think we want to be cautious. We don't want to cause another spike. We flattened that curve, and that's a good sign. And we have hospital bed capacity and ventilators, but you certainly don't want to risk changing that trend. Congress is not going back until May the 4th at the earliest. Meantime, we're talking about voting by proxy. We're having all kinds of telephone town halls. We're having committee hearings over the phone, but there's no plan for Congress to go back until May 4th at the earliest. So I don't really see that happening.
Yes, sadly, I agree with you, and that's what I've heard from other politicians as well. Congresswoman Dina Titus, we always appreciate your honesty and you coming on this program. A great service you're providing to our listeners. Hopefully we can have you on again soon. Really do appreciate you. Keep up the good work, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. Call me anytime.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
Thanks a lot,
that
Dina.
means a lot. We really appreciate that. Congresswoman Dina Titus taking time out of her day to talk to us. That's the latest information, folks. We just gave you the latest information from a congresswoman who is in these briefings every week with the governor. And she just told us she doesn't think there's much of a chance that we're going to be opening up on May 1st. She just told us, yeah, there's a possibility that down the road an MGM might open one property here and there. But it sounded to me, if you were listening to that interview, and she has the latest information, the inside scoop, we're not opening up on May 1st. It's not going to happen.
I think that's a mistake.
Yeah. Well, you can think it's a mistake. I'm just giving the information to our listeners.
I agree.
Mistake or not, that's the tone that she gave us, and we appreciate her joining us on the Vegas Take. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it's time for a little positivity. You know, we've had J.D. Sharp's positive take of the day. Today, we're calling it something else. It's going to be the China Report with J.D. Sharp. We'll explain.
May or may not be positive.
That's right. We don't know if it's going to be positive or not, but it's going to be the China Report with J.D. Sharp, my co-host, coming up next right here on the Vegas Take on the 101.5 FM, 720 AM. KDON. We'll be back in 60 seconds.
You over 50? Would you like to get up to 33% more income in retirement? Then call now for this free book, Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers, from a leading financial firm on maximizing your income in retirement. That's right, free. This free book reveals little-known truths about annuities in simple-to-understand terms that will help you make the right choices before buying an annuity. And it's free. As a bonus, we'll also throw in a free annuity rate report summarizing the rates and benefits from financially strong insurers.
Call 800-859-5108.
That's right, Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers and Annuity Rate Report, both absolutely free for calling today.
Call 800-859-5108. That's 800-859-5108.
Producers have the appropriate licenses for the products they offer. Increased income is possible using strategies suited to your goals and may require buying multiple annuities and holding them full term.
101.5 FM, 720 AM. KDON, the talk of Las Vegas. Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM. KDON.
All right, welcome back.
It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. By the way, I heard a rumor. We got Mike Tyson coming up next segment. Stein, is that true? Mike Tyson, the boxer.
We should have mentioned something earlier, but it was the great Mike Tyson, yes.
The legend himself, Mike Tyson, is going to be joining us next segment. Wow, this is going to be a lot of fun. Boxing legend. But right now, we want to hear a little bit of positivity, right? Yesterday, we were all talking about my 40th birthday. I mean, that wasn't positive for me because I'm getting old. But we have a new segment now. It used to be the J.D. Sharp positive take of the day, but now, ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you the China Report with J.D. Sharp.
What, there's no music?
Let's say China. 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 China.
Yes, ladies. What an introduction, by the way.
Really good. Yeah, I wish I spoke fluent Mandarin, but I don't.
What was Rush Limbaugh saying? I don't know. Anyway, I think he was saying he's a fool. Anyway, it is time.
He's a very, very wealthy fool.
It is time for the China Report with Mr. J.D. Sharp. J.D., take it away, my friend.
So a lot of the conversation about China is, the basic understanding is that this virus started in a wet market in Wuhan, with a horseshoe bat giving it to a pangolin who somehow gave it to someone who worked in the market. And a lot of information has come out. We haven't touched on it yet, but there is a virology lab in Wuhan, China. And it is the only biosafety level 4 lab in Wuhan, China. Is this music going to keep going?
Make it louder, Sean, please. Raise it.
Was this on purpose?
We really didn't discuss it.
No, you probably should have done that, Stein.
Why you get so
It's this damn coronavirus, I tell you.
We're losing our minds. Make it louder, Sean. Don't. No, where did it go? There we go. All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead, JD.
So this guy seriously has important information.
No, so this was actually...
Sean, cut the
okay, all right.
Go ahead,
No, I'm done.
No, go. Don't get angry.
Clearly you wanted to hijack this. That clearly was a giant joke for the entire time.
No, it's not hijacking.
Are you sure?
That's not, I'm giving you the floor.
Are you positive?
Just because we had music playing, there was lovely music
you
in
had
the background.
very, very loud music playing in the background.
A lot of my dates play that music all the time.
That's factual. That has nothing to do with me, Brian.
Well, it's a little background music.
That's your personal
fetish. Would you rather us play REM?
You're welcome to your personal fetishes.
My fetish?
Yeah, I would rather you play REM and then stop the music and let me actually
it's stopped now.
Explain myself.
It's stopped now. I'm sorry if you offended. All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead. That was Sean. That was not me. I didn't tell him to do that. I didn't tell him to play Sean.
Hey, Sean.
I didn't tell him to do that.
We'll chat later.
Go ahead. Go.
Sean's having an off day.
Too many jewels.
Go ahead, JD.
Okay.
Too many jewels?
Too many jewels. Okay, anyways. So there's a biosafety lab level 4, which means it is the only lab in China that can actually work on viruses that don't have cures. And so what's been happening for X amount of years, and the United States actually funds this lab as well, along with a lot of different countries. But they've been taking these wild bats from these caves in Hubei province all over China, and they have been bringing them back into this lab in these very, very secure circumstances and studying them because of the SARS virus. Now keep in mind, in Beijing, the SARS virus has escaped from these types of labs 5 times. So it's kind of a coincidence that the lab is roughly less than a mile away from this wet market. It's kind of a coincidence that the Chinese government basically said, this originated in this wet market. And then suddenly they stopped. We've had several different doctors disappear. You've had several different quote unquote whistleblowers just disappear. The guy who actually there's a video and you can find it online where he actually is going into these caves and he's looking for these bats. He has disappeared as well. So the general thought process is right now that someone who worked in the lab accidentally infected themselves. This is not a biological weapon. This is not, in my opinion, an act of war, because in this lab, they don't produce biological weapons. Because, again, the United States has some understanding of what's going on. Now, that being said, if China identified this virus on this bat, and they isolated the virus was able to escape. Now, if you identify a virus that is as deadly as this one, I would imagine that whoever the doctor was or whoever the worker was would have told their superiors of that. So I would imagine that the country of China, the government, the communist government, would have an idea of what was taking place. So China basically blamed this virus on the pangolin bat relationship. It said it was a zootonic when it was actually, it was a coronavirus, but it was identified from special studies, at least in my opinion, it was identified from special studies, and China blamed this virus on the bat. Well, now China is saying that any type of information that comes out of their country is basically under scrutiny. I mean, like, no one can actually look into what's going on here. And so the common thought process is now among a lot of Trump's administration, Mike Pompeo, that this virus actually originated in this virology lab, this very, very high-end, high-tech virology lab in Wuhan, China. It escaped, and then China blamed it on this wet market. In the process, did not actually tell people what was going on. Now, maybe they became opportunistic about it, or it was embarrassment for them. But that's my update on what's going on with China.
All right, that is a segment that we will continue next week. Coming up next, this is awesome. This is going to be very fun. Hall of Fame boxer, legend himself, Mike Tyson, will be joining us next. Right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take.
That for states to use to get their economies up and running. Correspondent Athena Jones.
President Trump revealing the White House's new guidelines for opening up America again. With no start date, his three-step plan outlines an effort to gradually restart the economy, beginning in areas least affected by the coronavirus pandemic.
Some issues are preventing millions from receiving their stimulus checks. Correspondent Julia Chatterley with suggestions for those who are still waiting.
Call the tax filing company if this affects you and you didn't get your money. You can try and go to this website that's been challenged, Get My Payment. The hope is that the IRS is getting this and the glitches there fixed. And if those two things don't work, the likelihood is you're going to have to wait for a paper check in the post.
On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average up 361 points, the S&P 500 gaining 40, the Nasdaq up 21. I'm Ann Cates.
So I don't know if you saw this, but there was just this big study about anxiety among us. Really interesting in this study.
It's time to check the roads. From the Letterman Road Traffic Studio.
Sponsored by Liberty Mutual Insurance, where you only pay for what you need. You've got a new accident on Jones at Tropicana. You can get over to Rainbow, Torrey Pines, or Decatur instead. There's a long-term roadwork project going on the 15, and it's in both directions, right at the 215 Northern Beltway. Nobody should have to pay for one-size-fits-all insurance coverage. Liberty Mutual customizes your coverage, so you only pay for what you need. I'm Danny Sullivan. That's a look at the roads from the KDON Traffic Center.
What would you consider a fair fee for a bankruptcy?
How about one low flat fee? Sound fair?
Fair Fee Legal Services can prepare and file your bankruptcy for just $7.99.
Call us at 702-703-3333
or check us out at fairfeelegalservices.com.
Get a fresh start
at a fair fee. Net free, carefree, finally free with Fair Fee. Fairfeelegalservices.com. 702-703-3333.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Do you want to learn to speak a new language but don't have enough time? Then you need to try Babbel, the language learning app that you can try for free right now at Babbel.com. Babbel's lessons are just 15 minutes or less, and you can go at your own pace. You'll be amazed at how easy Babbel makes it. Start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Just download the Babbel app or go to Babbel.com now. That's Babbel.com.
Chances are you or someone you know is struggling with an addiction. And just like most things in life, if you ignore it, it won't go away. The truth of the matter is, if you want to reclaim your life, you need help. That's why you need to call the National Recovery Center sooner than later. We can't help unless you're ready to be helped. You need to want a better life. You need to want to stop the downward out-of-control spiral you've been on. You need to make a conscious effort and take control. Our programs are designed to provide you with the care and support you need. Every person is treated with a unique treatment plan designed specifically for you, regardless of what stage of addiction you're in. Don't let the pain of addiction ruin your life. Call 800-998-7338. That's 800-998-7338. 800-998-7338. One out.
His take on 1015 FM 720 AM. KDON.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. In a few minutes here, really excited. We're going to have a Hall of Fame boxer, one of the best of all time. Mike Tyson will be joining us on the show. But, I don't have a lot of confidence in our producer, Jason Stein. Like, very little confidence in him, JD, and you know why. Because, we had a guest on last week, and it didn't go very well. Was it? Actually, no, it was this week. It was Monday. Stein, can you fill in the listeners if they weren't listening on Monday what exactly happened?
Do I have to pay for one mistake the rest of my career or the rest of my life, guys? Yes. I made a mistake. On Monday's show, if you weren't listening, it was right around this time on Monday's show, I booked who I thought was Shannon Miller, the Olympic gymnast. Well, it turned out it was actually a different Shannon Miller, and I have not been able to live it down. In fact, we do have some audio for people who weren't.
By the way, this is not made up. I just want to tell the listeners.
This was from Monday's show.
We were so Stein gave me the information because he books the guest, and he told me this was Shannon Miller, the Olympic gold medalist. And little did I find out that we had a different Shannon Miller on, and this is true. We're not making this up. We have the audio to prove it.
Yep, hit it.
The lady we have with us on the line right now, wow, what an athlete and what a career. Her name is Shannon Miller, former gymnast. She was actually a part of that Magnificent Seven team, the 1996 gold medal Olympic champions. She was the 93-94 world all-around champion, 96 Olympic balance beam champion, and she is known by many, and rightfully so, as the most decorated U.S. gymnast, male or female, with a total of 7 Olympic medals. Shannon Miller. Shannon, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Hey, it's great to be with you. I hate to do this to you, but there's 2 Shannon Millers, and there's Shannon Miller, the Olympic gymnast, and then there's me, Shannon Miller, the Olympic hockey coach, ice hockey coach. And so I'm pleased to do an interview with you today, but I apologize that you thought I was the gymnast.
I apologize for that. That was completely 100% my mistake. By the way, you heard a bang in the background. That was me banging the table. I wanted to punch Stein in the face. I hate getting put in a situation like that.
You looked like
I wanted to kill you.
Your cat had just been hit by a truck.
Yeah, so
he was not happy.
And
at
also
all.
disrespectful to Shannon Miller, who is a very accomplished hockey player and coach herself. She won a gold medal as a hocky coach in the Olympics.
It doesn't.
You're an idiot.
It doesn't matter how it happened. The point is, I got my Olympic gold medal. Olympic gold medalist confused.
Yeah, sometimes you mix up a summer Olympian from a Winter Olympian.
Well, hey,
sometimes
they're both Shannon Miller.
Absolutely, I agree.
Someone should have told me.
Right.
But it's okay. It's neither here nor there.
All right. Well,
I've been doing this. I've been doing this a long time. It's the first time that has ever happened. It will never.
We can laugh
happen.
about it now.
You can laugh about it now, but it'll never happen again.
I think it was a mulligan. I really do.
It's a mulligan.
Yeah, it's a mulligan.
I don't take mulligans. I was a college golfer.
So my point is this, guys.
I take 5 every round.
When I say I've got someone on the line in the future, you can rest assured that the person is who they say they are.
All right, fair enough.
So don't. I know we got the great Mike Tyson on the air on the hold right now.
Great.
I don't want you to be nervous. Okay.
Okay. I appreciate that. Do we have him on the line right now?
Yeah, let's bring him on.
All right, this is great. This guy is a Hall of Famer. He has won more prized boxing fights than any of them. I used to watch this guy fight with my dad on pay-per-view all the time, and one of the best, and he also is a Las Vegas local. Ladies and gentlemen, so glad to have him on the line with us. Mike Tyson, Iron Mike Tyson. Mike, thanks so much for joining us. How are you?
Ryder, JD, it's a big thrill to be able to be on the Vegas Take, but I hate to do this to you guys. Look, it happens all the time. My name is Mike Tyson. I work up at Terrible's up here at Gas and Grocery up here on Sahara and Desert Inn. I know, look, it happens all the time. It gets mixed up with Mike Tyson, the great boxer, of course, great Las Vegas local. But I was told by your producer, Jason Stein, he wanted to talk a little fighting, a little bit of boxing. And look, I got some thoughts. I got the stories on that working here, of course, because we do have our slot machines here, and it happens all the time to get guys going back and forth. I want to play my ghetto bonus poker, and I want to play my double.
Hey, Mike, I got to stop you. Stein, did this seriously just happen again?
You got to be kidding me.
I'm speechless. Guys, I apologize. I don't know what to say.
Wait, hold on a second.
I looked up. Listen. Hey,
wait, you're not Mike Tyson.
No, I looked up Mike. Guys. I looked up Mike Tyson in the white pages.
That's how you book guests?
Okay. It said, look, how many Mike Tysons are there? It said Mike Tyson. It had an address in Las Vegas that it sounded like it might be. Who else could it be?
Sir, with all due respect.
There's another Mike Tyson in Las Vegas?
Sir,
How was I supposed to know?
Sir, with all due respect, okay?
I talked to him.
Hold on. Can I talk to this guy?
He said he knew a lot about fighting.
Shut up. Hold on.
He said he knew a lot about fighting.
Just answer my question. Are you at least in a fight club?
I am in a fight club, and like I told you, JD, I get all kinds of experience when it comes to fighting in here. I had a couple ladies the other day. One wanted to play 4-card Keno. The other one wanted to play some caveman. I had to get in there, break it up. I felt like, one of those big-time referees.
Wait, hold on a second.
The ring
I'm cutting you off.
No, my interest has actually been piqued. I want this to continue,
listen,
Brian.
I think our producer should be fired. But Mr. Tyson, with all due respect, sir, when our producer reached out to you, what made you think that, with all due respect, we wanted a cashier at Terrible's to talk to us about boxing? Did you not put 2 and 2 together? I believe you took advantage of us. What made you think that we wanted to interview you? Your name is Mike Tyson. Why didn't you tell our producer that you weren't Mike Tyson? That's ridiculous.
Well, here's the deal. I'm a big-time fight fan. I'm someone I like to think I'm knowledgeable, and I have experience in the fight game, if you want to put it that way. So that's why I thought my experience and my storytelling would be valuable. That's why, I wanted to put that down in there. And look, I want to talk to you guys. You guys are talking a lot about, a lot of stuff going on in the world. And I was thinking, hey, maybe myself, you, Brian, JD. By the way, big fan of the show. Vegas Take.
Hey, thanks a lot, Mike. Appreciate that.
One of the biggest radio shows, not just here in Vegas, but in the country. And I was thinking maybe I get a chance to hang out with you, JD, with you, Brian, and maybe get Campaign Stein, make a run down to Florida. Hey, they're opening up those beaches down there.
Yes, they are.
Little late spring.
Hey, Mike, where does your accent come from? Obviously, it's not a native Las Vegas accent.
Ready to roll.
Mike, where does your accent come from?
I'm actually originally from Louisiana. I've been here in Vegas for about 16 years.
And by the way, you sound exactly like Mike Tyson.
Guy about now.
You sound exactly.
Well,
like
when
Mike
I talked to him, it sounded legit. I apologize.
Did you talk to this guy on the phone?
I did talk to him briefly on the phone, and
what made you think that?
Well, you know how sometimes celebrities, I've talked to a lot of celebrities on the phone, and they sound different on the phone than they do in person or on TV. So to me, that he had this Louisiana accent, it didn't even occur to me that it wasn't the real Mike Tyson.
You are an
idiot.
Again,
I looked it up on the white pages. He said he was knowledgeable about fighting.
You are an embarrassment to the show. You go on the white pages to try to book a guest. Are you serious?
Look, I'm embarrassed enough.
Why don't you try to find Michael Jordan in the white pages?
Hey, Mike, did at some point...
Let's try to salvage this. He might have some interesting stories.
Did you own a Super Nintendo, and did you play Mike Tyson's knockout punch at any point in your life?
I love that game so much, JD, because it was just the fact that I got to fight Joe Glass, the first one. He was always the one I loved, just taking him out. So, yes, I was a big fan of that game. And look,
I like King Hippo.
I've had some boxing experience, gentlemen. I was in the boxing. I was in club boxing when I was in the military. I was in the Marines. Brian, you don't have to thank me for that's my service. I appreciate that. But, I have some experience when it comes to jumping inside the square circle and getting some things done. So that's why I thought Stein wanted to have me on the show to give a little insight in that area.
Mr. Tyson, I guess since we have you on the phone, as our idiot producer said, we'll try to make the best of it. What are your thoughts on Donald Trump? Do you have any opinions on Donald Trump as president of the United States?
I think that 45 is doing what he can do. And I think that, hey, I'm one of those people out there who understand the guy's under all kinds of pressure. There's all kinds of things coming at him left and right. and having being able to weave through that as well as fire down his KFC and his Arby's on a regular basis, got to be a tough thing to do. Not gonna lie to you, it's tough. But we're in one of those unprecedented times. That's the word that everyone's been using. So it's tough for me to be too hard on the guy. But hey, he's doing what he can do. We'll see how this all pans out, and I hope you guys are all staying safe.
Yeah, well, please knock out our producer, Jason Stein, if you ever meet him, if you can promise me that.
That's a promise. I don't know if I can keep that, Brian, but Stein, he was real nice to me on the air, and I got to tell you, I'm thrilled like a pig, and you know what? Get a chance to jump on this show, hang out with you guys. This is something special. I'm going to remember it at least until Sunday.
Fair enough.
That's very, very
well,
impressive.
Mike, aren't you supposed to be getting back to work? I know you said you were calling on your break.
Yeah, gentlemen, I got a little thing. I got a few things I need to do around here, so I'm going to let you go, or you're going to let me go.
Thanks.
And hope you guys have a good weekend, and keep up the great work.
Thank you. Thank you. Keep up the great work at Terribles. We appreciate you coming on. That is Mike Tyson.
I actually really enjoyed that interview, Stein.
That was not.
I mean, it's your second mistake this week, but
you make the most of it.
Kind of like the first one. I felt like we really salvaged that.
Well, listen. A lot of people go to Terribles. Okay.
I thought you said this wouldn't happen again, though. You lied. It did happen again. You just said
I didn't
you promised.
lie.
So
It was an honest mistake.
Who lies more, Stein or Trump?
Oh, well, Trump. That's not even close.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't even call it a lie. It was an honest mistake. My intentions were pure.
Well, I got to say, you've been doing this a long time, Stein, and I find it very
It
troubling.
won't happen again, though.
Okay. Well,
this I do promise.
I find it troubling that
3 strikes, you're out, but 2, it won't happen a third time. I promise.
You're the only producer in the world that would go on the white pages to try to get a guest. That's a little troubling. But
honestly, I found his accent to be.
I've been going in the white pages for 15 years.
Although, to your credit, you probably do more work in going in the white pages to get guests than some other producers do in this town. So, I mean, I'll give you credit for that. I'll give you. All right. Well,
guys, I'm sorry. Let's just.
All right. I accept your.
It'll be better in the future.
Hopefully, the listeners accept your apology. Although we do know that there is a Mike Tyson now that works at a Terrible. So if you run into somebody and his name is Mike, say, "Hey, didn't I hear you on the Vegas take?" and spread the word. Well, I'd like to find out where this guy works so I could go see him and apologize to him.
I thought he said the Desert Inn in Sahara.
Is that where the one he's at?
He gave a location.
Okay. Well, we hope. Mr. Mike Tyson, we hope you stay safe, and we'll try to get in touch with Don King and Robin Givens for you. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, ladies and gentlemen, it's time. It's that time of the day, and I think I probably deserve it today because I was even more frustrated than usual. It's hate mail time, ladies and gentlemen. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. And by the way, if you want to add on to that hate mail, you might have a few minutes. Go on our YouTube page, The Vegas Take, and we read some of that hate mail on our show every day. We're going to do that coming up next. You're listening to The Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.
Attention oxygen users. Are you on oxygen therapy and still using tanks? Life is hard enough struggling to breathe. Don't waste your breath on dealing with bulky, dangerous tanks.
Call 800-771-5974 now.
And try the Inogen 1 G4 oxygen concentrator risk-free for 30 days. Tanks are a hassle. They hamper mobility and are difficult to transport, not to mention risky. The Inogen 1 G4 oxygen concentrator is compact and makes its own oxygen, making your life easier. If you call right now, we'll send you a free information kit that outlines all the benefits. Plus, you can get a 30-day risk-free trial to see for yourself. But don't wait. This exclusive radio offer won't last. Call for your free information kit on the Inogen 1 G4 oxygen concentrator. Ditch the hassles of tanks and experience the freedom of living a mobile life again.
Call 800-771-5974. That's 800-771-5974. 800-771-5974.
So I don't know if you saw this, but there was just this big study about anxiety among us. Really interesting in this study about what can keep us up at night. One of the top stressors out of all the things to worry about is paying for health care. A huge majority of us say we're worried about that. It's totally understandable, but there's an affordable alternative to health insurance. It's MediShare. It's a Christian healthcare sharing ministry, and it has worked beautifully for more than 25 years. And not only do people save lots of money, they get access to a huge network of doctors. They get to take advantage of 24/7 live access online where they can talk to a doctor and even get prescriptions. And of course, there is the savings. With MediShare, the typical family saves $500 a month. That can help sleep easier too. There's a lot about it. No wonder it's grown so much. Here is the number to find out more. Call 844-91-BIBLE. That's 844-91-BIBLE. 844-91-BIBLE.
1015 FM, 720 AM. KDON, the talk of Las Vegas. Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 1015 FM, 720 AM. KDON.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget, Mark Levin, 3 to 6. Are you a liberal? Mr. Producer. Are you a liberal? Mr. Producer. That was my Mark Levin
He sure knows a lot about John Adams.
Yes, he does.
I'll say that.
Mr. Producer, how can you go on the white pages and think you're getting Mike Tyson on the line? Mr. Producer, what is your explanation, Mr. Producer? Mr. Producer, you're talking to the great one.
Just cut me some slack.
All right,
man.
I'll cut you a little bit of slack.
Mistakes happen.
Mistakes do happen, but that was another big boo-boo. You
did a good job of, like I said, you did a good job. Both of you.
So speaking of Mark Levin, he made a statement yesterday that actually the president has the opportunity, if he wants to, if he believes that interstate commerce is being affected by specific states, he can come in and he can intervene. So if a couple of these states don't open their doors and it affects the general economy through interstate commerce on a national level, Donald Trump can come in and he can actually make some things happen with those states.
On the other side of things, I'm wondering if Donald Trump would intervene if states open too early and the disease spreads fast and it turns out to be a very bad
see
decision.
that's why he did what he did, because he's putting all of that blame now. He's transferred the blame. He shifted the blame onto the states themselves.
Well, he said he had
whether the disease spreads exponentially or whether your economy gets destroyed, which I thought was a very, very intelligent decision by Donald Trump.
Probably was an intelligent thing to say a few days ago when he said he had total control, and then a couple days later he walked back.
I think he was setting them up for that because obviously he knew that he didn't have total control.
Or it could be also possible that he's a buffoon and he doesn't know the laws. That might also be possible.
I think he's been so successful as a president because the way that he does things, people just don't understand it. It's not like politicians in the past have operated, and it's really confused a lot of people.
All right. Well, as far as being so successful as a president, tell that to the 30,000 plus families that have lost loved ones due to the coronavirus. So I would disagree with you on that. Not a shocker. We disagree. I think the president is doing the opposite of doing a great job. And I think the things he says on a regular basis and the things he does, particularly even in these press conferences, is utter nonsense.
So what do you think about my China segment, Brian? What are your thoughts on the fact that there is the highest safety level lab is a 1 mile away from this wet market, and now what China has done, and the fact that they've shut off all communication coming out of, or all documents coming out of China in regards to research on this virus? Do you think that the virus was taken from a bat in that lab and it escaped and it infected the general public and it was covered up, or what do you think actually happened at this point?
I've been saying this for weeks now, and my opinion on China hasn't changed, and I'll tell you the exact same thing I've said on this show. There is no question. And by the way, I'm not going to get into a hypothetical of whether they did it on purpose or not because we still don't know. But here's what we do know. I'm going to focus on what we know for sure is that the Chinese government hid this underneath the rug. They hid it from not just the American people, but the world. They are murderers. These people in the Chinese government have blood on their hands. That's what we know. We also know that this absolutely 100% originated in China, or as Trump likes to call it, China.
Yeah.
And do we know whether it was in a lab or not? I'm going to wait on that until we get more information. But regardless of whether it was made in a lab or not and it was accidentally thrown out there, okay, that's not what I'm angry about. What I'm really angry about is the way the Chinese government has handled it.
And again, I'm not suggesting that it was actually bioengineered in a lab. I'm saying it was taken off of a bat. It was isolated, and so I'm not saying that the scientists actually created the virus. I'm saying the virus existed on this bat.
And here's a
tip. They found it. They took it off, and then somehow the virus got out.
And here's a tip to everyone around the world: stop eating bats and leave them alone. It's so stupid.
Or
stop it with the bats.
Or stop experimenting.
Right, exactly.
Or both. Stop serving bat soup, you nimrods. Anyway, time for me and JD finally agree on something. That's the first thing we agreed on today.
Yeah,
we agree.
We're like 1 of 15. We're agreeing on absolutely nothing these days, Brian.
It's like
nothing.
Stein. It's like
I like it though. I prefer it.
It's like Stein at the free throw line, about 1 for 15. Anyway, Stein, why don't you tell us? You deserve that, by the way, with that Mike Tyson thing.
Do you agree any free throws, Stein?
Not a good free throw shooter.
No, I'm just not good.
Not a good free throw shooter.
No, I do like the regular free throws. I'm just a lot of air balls. And,
That's fair.
They called me the plumber in high school because all I did
He's
was drain,
good.
all I did was drain threes.
I gotta say, we went to the court one time, and he's got a very sweet stroke.
All right, well, you have a very sweet stroke too when you're at home every night by yourself. Anyway, Stein, that was uncalled for.
The
I
lowest
apologize.
form of humor.
It's time.
Filth.
But there was some truth to it. It was tongue in cheek.
100% truth. 100% truth. It's time now
It
for
was
our
hand and member.
hate mail segment of the day. Mr. Stein, take it away.
End the Friday on a good note here with
by
a
making
little
fun of me,
hate
of course.
mail.
See how he says that? Let's end it on a good note by making fun of Brian.
First, YouTube viewer writes, "Why does Brian always say he trusts the doctors and professionals, but when it comes to Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz, he calls them idiots? Perfect example of you being an idiot yourself if you
Sure.
don't agree with Brian."
Sure. Here's the response to that. Tell me when the last time was that Dr. Phil actually practiced medicine. Dr. Phil is a TV talk show host and a celebrity. Tell me the last time Dr. Phil was in the front lines, in the hospitals. Tell me the last time Dr. Phil had to deal with infectious disease. Dr. Phil likes being called a doctor. He is no more than a TV host who hasn't practiced medicine in decades. So that is a ridiculous statement that you just made. By the way, that's a fact. Go ahead, Stein.
Next comment. Yesterday, Brian turned 40. Today, he is like an angry, bitter senior citizen.
No, that's very that's obviously you haven't been listening to a show for ever because I'm always like that. That's me every day. When I was 21, I was like that. So my personality hasn't changed in 40 years. So you're wrong.
You did have a dip in blood sugar at one point, and you had to go get the emergency peanut butter jar.
Yeah, I'm out of peanut butter. I'm out of peanut butter. That's just, we're all in quarantine. We're all losing our minds a little bit here. I think that's fair.
I got some good little news for you. Just popped up. Antibody research indicates coronavirus may be far more widespread than known. What have I been saying for the last 3 weeks, Brian? That exact thing. ABC actually released that.
Mm-hmm. That's good news?
That's some feel-good stuff. That means that mortality rate is a lot less.
I'll believe it.
Let's get into that next week.
Let's do it.
I actually have someone who wants to talk about testing.
Fantastic.
Antibody testing. So let's do that. All right, next comment. Can you bring in a color chart and put it next to Brian's face, please? The other day he was flamingo pink, and today he's raspberry red. The guy is a human mood ring.
This guy is a racist. He wants to judge people based on skin color. I think that's very inappropriate and very racist. Go ahead.
No, he's calling you like the Shang Tsung because you just morph into different shades all the time. I wouldn't mind getting a hue calculator to your left or to your right.
Stop trying to break down my jokes. I was trying to be funny. Don't take it seriously.
Hi, guys. How are you? I didn't realize that hitting 40 meant hitting a wall. Brian has really taken a beating today.
Taking a beating? What does that mean? Taking a beating from who?
Was it a compliment to me?
I think it's a comment about your looks.
Oh.
I think.
Well, nothing.
You want me to interpret these? Sometimes I don't know what people are thinking on
Let me
half
tell you
these
something.
comments,
When
but
I get up in the
they're
morning,
insulting you, and that's the bottom line.
When I get up in the morning,
Which is the most important thing.
When I get up in the morning, the only thing that I really truly care about is how I look to middle-aged men that are watching our YouTube feed. That's really my only goal in life. I have to look handsome.
How do you know that this was a male, Brian?
I'll even go a step further. I guarantee you he's living in his mom's basement, never had a job, and has nothing better to do than comment on a middle-aged
And see,
man's
I
looks.
take offense to that because I think that means that you believe that a woman wouldn't think that about you.
I don't think it was a woman. And if it was a woman that actually had a life, no, I don't think she would think that. Go ahead, Stein.
No, hang on. I was asking Sean something. Okay.
What?
I was asking Sean something. All right, here we go.
The mumbling producer, Jason Stein, ladies and gentlemen.
Next comment. Brian looks like Veruca Salt from Willy Wonka after she turns into a blueberry. Why has he turned purple? It's actually really noticeable when you put him on a split screen next to JD and Stein.
Your wife made a part of my body turn purple the other night, sir. Go ahead, Stein. Next.
And then another viewer responded to that, saying, I noticed that as well. Brian looks like he is starting his own Purple Man group.
I guess they don't like my robe.
I like
the
that a lot.
Purple Man group.
Really, really good comment there.
That's great.
That was outstanding.
Well, with the bald head and the
good.
purple face, I could see that. Yeah.
I like that.
You could make a lot of money.
I'm going to wear a pink robe on Monday.
There's definitely something to
when
that.
the strip reopens.
Yeah.
Next comment. I can't stand looking at Brian's face or listening to his whiny, irritating voice. Hashtag get Brian off the air.
Yet this is the same guy or girl that listens to our show every day, that comments every day. By the way, how's that hashtag working out for you, you loser?
Next comment. At first, listening to Brian on the radio turned me into an alcoholic and drug abuser, but now I'm lashing out at the people around me. Brian is damaging America.
Good. If there's any person I'd want to damage, it would be you, sir. So keep
He
listening.
actually systematically broke down how you are toxic to his life.
Good. I hope I'm continue to take those toxins and bring them in.
Hey, by the way, the hashtag Get Brian Off the Air, you're doing a pretty poor job of circulating that. I haven't seen that on Twitter or any other social media sites.
Also,
I would work on
may
that.
I just also add, and I'm no social media guru, believe me, but maybe hashtag Get Brian Shapiro off air, because there's probably other Brian talk show hosts. You might start the hashtag and get an innocent Brian fired from the airwaves.
Brian Kilmeade.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Next comment from someone who actually identifies themselves as Tucker Carlson. Does anyone know a good lawyer? I'd like to sue Brian's parents for bringing him into this world.
Tucker Carlson. I'd like to sue anybody who imitates Tucker Carlson and has a fake page of Tucker Carlson on our YouTube page.
Joey Molinaro did a great impersonation of Tucker Carlson the other day. So I wonder if there's ever been a lawsuit filed under those premises before, Stein. Do you think there has?
For someone being born?
Yes.
Someone's probably tried it.
It sounds frivolous, doesn't it?
I'd like to see someone try it. We'd have him on the show.
I would definitely do
If
that.
you're a lawyer who wants to sue Brian's parents for bringing him into the world, we will give you 5 to 10 minutes to state your case.
This just in, I just got an email from the real Mike Tyson. He's suing us for slander because of the fake Mike Tyson we just had on. Yeah. Anything else?
Again,
You
an
dope?
innocent
Yeah,
mistake.
but we plugged Fight Club. We plugged his video game. I'm not buying that, Brian. You're full of it.
Well, I know Stein is going to do some plugging tonight by himself.
I
Go
think
ahead.
we're out of time.
Oh,
yeah.
that's
Hang on, I got 1 minute. Let me find one really good one.
Is it true that Sean's a furry, by the way?
I don't know.
No, we got a break.
I don't know. No.
I guess we got a break. Okay.
We gotta go. All right. So thanks for joining us, everybody. The legend himself, Sean Hannity, will be coming up next. And by the way,
Your home for Sean Hannity, KDWN Las Vegas, KKLZ HD2 Las Vegas, a Beasley Media Group station.
19, but there's been no dramatic reductions in the statistics yet.
The net number of hospitalizations continues to drop across New York State, and the figures show this continuing.
I'm looking at the thing. It says 1 minute.